Next order of business, we're looking for an adoption of the minutes. Moved by Councillor Morocco, second by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Okay, it's approved. Thank you. And next up is disclosures of pecuniary interest. Do you have any disclosures? Okay. Seeing none, we'll start with our presentations portion of the meeting. And Chief, are you going to be doing this, or is Phil Russ? Okay, we'll ask our Chief Smith if you'd start us off with our emergency management presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, Your Worship. In 2012, we were asked by Council to provide information regarding the emergency management plan for the State of Niagara Falls, and Deputy Chief Ross right now will give that update.
Thank you, Chief. Your Worship, members of Council, it's my pleasure to be here tonight to give you rather high-level information just on emergency management and what takes place within the city. So, to begin with, the emergency management is contained within 4 components: prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. So, basically, we have to talk about first what is an emergency. An emergency is more than what we would term an event. Emergency is something that would threaten public safety, public health, the environment, property, or critical infrastructure. So it's much more than just an event, day-to-day event that we might respond to as a fire department. So why do we have emergency management in place? Some of the past emergencies, as you can see on the screen, that has been happening throughout Ontario, sometimes within the region. Back in 1979, the Mississauga train derailment. This derailment entailed a mass evacuation of over 200,000 people. That took place in Mississauga. And next, the ice storms in 1998 took place throughout Ontario and into the eastern provinces. Millions were left dark for periods varying from days to weeks, and more than 30 fatalities were due to this storm. The blackout in 2003. This was widespread. That occurred throughout the northeast, midwestern Ontario in August. And 10 million people in Ontario were affected by this. The Sunrise propane in Toronto. This happened in 2008. We all saw it on the news. It entailed some evacuation within the city, and it was handled by Toronto fire crews. White October in Fort Erie. This was 15 inches of snow fell in October. Created widespread power outages, and the EOC was activated at that point in time in Fort Erie. The windstorm, in recent memory, was 2011. We were impacted here in Niagara Falls with this, as well as the region. We were inundated with calls during this storm, and at the height of the storm, we had a house fire, a fully involved structure fire that took place, and we had all 6 of our fire stations on the road during the storm. And this is the Thorold Scrap Fire in 2011. We were also impacted by this. The Chief and I both attended this at different points in time. This was a long event. Niagara Falls was potentially impacted in the southwest area of the city through the smoke migration. We had been in conversation with the region, the EOC, as well as the mayor was advised in case we did have to enact our emergency plan and do an evacuation. So some of the other emergencies that have taken place and why we focus on emergency management. As you can see, we've already talked about some. There's been water distribution cases throughout. Grimsby has had, and Port Colborne has dealt with water emergencies, as well as hazmat incidences throughout the region, the Wind Dock boat collision, and refugee influx in 2004 in Brock University. So these are some of the reasons that we have to be cognizant of keeping aware of the emergency management role. So some of the top risks in Niagara, we've decided and looked at through a matrix that epidemic, pandemic, fire, hazardous materials, explosions, transportation route disruptions, border security, and weather events are some of our top risks that we have to deal with within Niagara Falls. This is how we arrive at those risks. This is called a HIRA. It's a Hazard Identification Risk Assessment, and basically it through a matrix and a numerical value, we decide what, based on probability of consequence, what our top risks are. And then we go from there and devise a response plan accordingly. So why do we do emergency management? Well, we're legislated through the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. We're required to have an emergency management plan in place, as well as CEMCs in place. So part of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act has declaring an emergency. Declaring an emergency allows the municipality to take action and issue orders necessary to protect the property, health, and safety and welfare of the public. The mayor or his alternate can declare an emergency for the city. Through the Act, we are also mandated to have 12 yearly requirements that we have to attain, which for our compliance. It's on an annual basis. All municipalities are required to do this throughout Ontario. And the annual requirements that we have to do are listed here. We have to have a designated CEMC. Our chief, Chief Smith, is our designated primary CEMC, and I am the alternate. CEMC is the Community Emergency Management Coordinator. And as you can see, we have a lot of things, the 12 yearly or annual events that have to take place within the city in order for us to be compliant. And some of these, as it goes through the list, the critical infrastructure identification, annual exercises for the emergency control group, designation of emergency information officer, which at this point is Dean, and his backup, his alternate is Dale. And then we have an annual program review also. Activation of the emergency plan. So each year, part of the requirements is we have to review the emergency plan, and in case it is activated. So it's activated when the control group is activated. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a formal declaration of an emergency within the city. It just means that we're preparing for such. So the emergency control group, which we call in Niagara Falls the community control group, it's a legislative requirement. And its purpose is to manage the municipality's response to an emergency. And basically, it's in support of the emergency. Most of the community control group, internal agency anyway, is located within the chambers right now, which is comprised of senior staff. So we would get together in the event of emergency and deal with the emergency at that point in time. And here's the list of the control group. As you can see, we also have police and EMS. Sorry, Dean. We also have police and EMS on the list, who will come to our location, to our EOC, which is located at Station 1 on Morrison Street, and get together. And as a group, we would try to handle the emergency from that point of view. So some of the responsibilities, as you can see, are listed right here. And as I said, the overall focus of the EOC is twofold. It's business continuity. We want to ensure that the government, as well as the business of the city of Niagara Falls, is carried forward, as well as supporting the operations at the emergency scene. So the head of council is part of the community control group. And his role is to provide the overall leadership. He acts as the official spokesperson for the municipality. He is the one who declares or terminates the emergency and ensures that all members of council are advised of the emergency situation. Council's role in an emergency, and you do have a role, you wouldn't be part of the community control group. However, your role would be to reassure constituents, support actions taking place, to work together and collaboratively with the CCG, and meet as requested. We would probably look at you as if we needed any policies passed or policy formation for a long drawn-out event. We would ask that you guys would get together and draw up some policies or whatever we would require to make the CCG and the emergency work better. So, in an emergency event, we have 4 different stages of notification, and they would go from partial alert through to a full activation. A partial alert and a full alert is basically just a communication that would be sent forward through our Vocera app that we have on our BlackBerries, as well as an email or a phone call to our external agency partners. And basically that would be just to advise of a pending situation. I believe the chief did a partial alert during the latest, I'm not too sure of the term, whether it was a Hurricane Sandy or Tropical Storm Sandy or what. There was a partial alert at that point, just as an information to get out in case we had to enact our emergency plan. And then it goes through to a partial activation and a full activation, depending on the extent of the emergency and the people that the CEMC felt that was necessary to have at the EOC. These are controlled through fire department dispatch to all of these alerts and activations. So activation of the EOC, it is on a 24/7 basis. It can be activated at the direction of the CEMC, which is the fire chief, or the deputy chief, which is myself, the alternate CEMC. And it could be, we usually activate it, or can be activated also during training exercises or during any phase of an incident. So the Emergency Operations Center, as I said, that's located at Station 1 on Morrison Street. As you can see, it's where the control group implements and meets the emergency plan, provides centralized strategic coordination of the emergency response. And again, I can't stress enough, it's to support the emergency site. It maintains the operation of the municipality as a whole. That's why, as you can see by the control group and the members that are present, we cover a wide range of the senior staff of the city to ensure the continuity of operations. So within the EOC, we also we're looking at changing this year a little bit. The chief and I have discussed this, and we're going to start moving forward with changing how the EOC works a little bit. We're going to be going towards an absolute type of incident management system or incident command system, whereas within the EOC and within the community control group, we're going to have four groups acting in concert with each other. One would be operations, one would be planning, logistics, and then finance. And with those four main groups that are identified through the IMS system, we can deal with any emergency that might come forward. So we also couldn't operate as a community control group in the EOC without support. So this is the support group that we have in place. It can grow as required by the incident. And as you can see, there are other internal partners in here, as well as external people that we would have, that we would call upon to either communicate by phone or some other means, or actually invite into the EOC if it were necessary. So again, talking just a little bit about the emergency declarations, this would be one of the roles that would take place, and there would be a lot of conversation taking place at the community control group level in the EOC. The head council or designate may declare the emergency. If we do, we must notify the EMO as soon as possible. And in doing so, the province then gets involved, and they would provide the advice and liaison assistance to the city. Some of the criteria is needed. Again, as we saw in some of the previous pictures at the beginning of the presentation, these are more than an event. This is an actual emergency. So some of the criteria would have to be that this is the situation is definitely out of the norm, and it's a situation that can't be handled by the agencies or the internal agencies that we have in place in the city. So we would have to have that criteria in place before we call the declaration of an emergency. And then some of the benefits, if we ever we're in the need of declaring, some of the benefits that we would derive from it would be, as listed here, exceptional means to deal with it, bypass normal channels in order to expedite funds and processes. We get a lot of help from the provincial resources, including equipment, expertise, and people, and as well as WSIB coverage and other protections that are afforded through the declaration. If we had to get to that point. Fortunately, in my tenure here, in the chief's tenure, I don't believe we have ever had to declare an emergency, nor have we had to activate the EOC in an emergency. We've been very fortunate, and let's hope it continues that way. In front of you, I've provided the personal guide, the 72-hour booklet, Niagara Falls Emergency Preparedness Guide. And this is part of our public awareness program. It's called the 72 hours. It's listed as 72 hours because that's what's recommended, that the public be aware that they should be self-sufficient for that period of time. Depending on the extent of the emergency and how taxed our crews are at the point in time, it may take that long in order for you to get some assistance. So this booklet that we've handed out is available to all members of the public. It will guide you through. It's a personal guide to give you information prior to, during, and after the event, how to deal with it and how to prepare yourself. It's highly recommended that you have 72 hours worth of water, food, and other necessities to get you through until we can arrange to get proper help for you. Are there any questions or comments?
Okay, just before we do, we're going to start with council. Is there any members of council that have any questions for the chief or the deputy chief on the report? Only one question, Deputy Chief Ross, is when it mentioned about notifying the EMO in writing. When you say in writing, are we talking about an email or?
Yeah, there's forms. We have the forms that we can fill out. We can in writing would probably be either an email or a fax at that point in time. Yeah, depending on what network we had and what was up and running.
I'm thinking during an emergency, we're not going to mail a letter, right?
You never know. No, not mail a letter. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that, Councillor Iannone.
And just for council's information, I am 4 months from being a certified CEMC like the chief. And this is the program I'm very close to graduating from. But the interesting point of the paper I just wrote on Hurricane Sandy was not that the cities were not ready. The cities were ready. The percentage of people not ready were personal homes that did not have a 72-hour plan. And in all of the disasters that we've had to take a look at, it is always the personal plan in the personal home. And the one thing you left out, Deputy Chief, is have money. Because when bank machines and power and everything go down, what people are left at home with is a bank card that they cannot use, plastic they cannot use, and they do not have actual cash on them because we're so dependent on bank machines. So I had recommended to the chief, Mr. Mayor, that do you still have your TV show?
Yes.
Because, no, but I think this is, I didn't know.
If you want to call it that.
But I really think this document is one of the most important because while the city has a plan, the residents don't know the plan. This is really the first time we're telling the residents what they need to know. And if they could sit on your show also on Cable 10 and do this and advise this plan and encourage people to go online and read it, because if the emergency management teams can't get to them, if the first responders can't get to them, you better have 72 hours worth of resources in your house to keep you going for 3 days.
I'm going to Councillor Thompson's mattress. That's where we got all the resources.
Your Worship, I'd just like to point out, we do, part of our mandate through the EMO is that we have to have public consultation, and we do offer this during Fire Prevention Week. Simultaneous with this, we do offer, we hand out this, and we do offer any consultations with emergency management for the public at that point in time. So we have tables set up throughout the community at that point in time to answer any questions. But your councillor is absolutely right. This is important, and it's good information to get back, and she's absolutely right about the money, too.
Well, you know, that's a great point. Also, it's important to note that you people take this very serious, and we have these sessions. It's like there's an actual emergency going on, and everybody's conferring and doing their, you know, what they need to do to determine if it is an emergency and what our next steps are. So, our CAO included. They all treat it that way. Yes, Councillor Thompson, did you have another? Yeah.
What is the distribution of this?
The distribution, Deputy?
It's a.
Where's it go? Where's it go, or where's it been distributed?
It's been distributed, as I say, during Fire Prevention Week in October. We do this simultaneously through Fire Prevention, and the tables that we have set up at the McBain Center, at the Gale Center, and whatnot, we also hand these out at that point in time.
And there's no merit in distributing this once throughout the city to residential property?
Yes, Your Worship, we're looking at doing that. There's limited funds in order to purchase these, so on a yearly basis we're trying to get as many as we can, and in the future that's what our plan is, to more widely distribute them.
Yeah, good information, and when I looked at this initially, I thought we're going to be here for a day or two with the discussion, so my compliments on the way it was presented tonight. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gates?
Yeah, I think it's great too, and I think, Jim, I think it's a great idea that maybe you do it with your show, tie it up, because it isn't going right across the city, but I'm sure your show's watched right across the city. So I just want to say to the, how often would we do training? How often would you run one of these mock sections?
Every year. We're mandated to do it every year, so we would do an annual exercise. Sometimes it's tabletop. Sometimes it's going to be live exercise in the field. But every year, usually towards the fall, is when we get together. And before that, we're also mandated to do some training. So we will get the group together to review the program, review the emergency plan, and then do some training, and then do the exercise. So on an annual basis.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you take a look at it, you touched on it a little bit in the brochure, but the one thing that I think that we all should be concerned about until it gets fixed is that right through the middle of the city, the trains are going on a daily basis with chemicals, and if you've looked across the province of Ontario, or quite frankly right across the country, we've had a number of those happen right across the country. So maybe give us an update on how much training you've had on chemical spills as well.
Oh, well, within the city of Niagara Falls, we're fully capable of responding to a hazmat scene, mitigation, and we can take care of that as well as decon. And within the region, we also have a regional CBRN team, which is comprised of EMS fire throughout the region, 12 municipalities, and police. And we also have that capability of responding. But we train, I would hazard a guess that 80% of our personnel are trained to the technician level. We also have specialists on staff to deal with these types of emergencies. So we train significantly throughout the year on chemical emergencies, just because of the transportation, not only because of the transport of the rail, but also the highway. There's a lot of chemicals that make their way down through the Peace Bridge area too.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Councilor, and you're right, and I know the new trains with the stronger locomotives, they're 3 and 4 kilometers long, so you can definitely tie up a big area. Any other questions of council? Okay. Now, ma'am, we don't normally do this, but if you'd like to come around to the microphone and you can ask your question of our deputy chief. We don't typically do this, but yeah.
My name is Jenny Haywood. I have a question for the deputy chief. In that booklet you mentioned, did you prepare for public CPR and first aid courses? I do mean free courses to the public. Last time I took one, it was 3 years ago, mine expired. I had to travel out of town, stay 3 nights in a hotel to take a course to be trained as not a first responder, but CPR and first aid experienced person.
I'm not sure whether CPR and first aid is explicitly contained within this book, but it is definitely something that we recommend that all citizens have. And I would direct you through to St. John's or through another first aid provider that may be able to help you with some courses. I'm not sure what the charge is at this point in time.
There is a charge, and not everybody would take it. This was my beef before, that everybody should have their certificate, seniors especially, to take care of a senior, and I was always ready with certification on the chest and all that. Is that the only organization that gives the course?
No, there's many organizations, and what I can do is I can reach out to those organizations, as well as we have internal instructors. I know that we have offered blood pressure clinics free of charge and whatnot with our staff, so I can definitely reach out and see if we can provide anything free of charge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we need a motion for receiving this? No, we're good? Okay, thank you very much, Deputy. Appreciate that. Okay, moving on to next presentation. We're going to have a little shift to the, if you can go to your addition of council packages, there was a library presentation that was put into our packages. And I'm going to ask our Director of Finance, Todd Harrison, if he would please do the library presentation portion of our meeting. Or lead us, start us off.
Certainly. I would direct you to, we have tonight with us is Monica Seymour, the Chief Operating Officer of the library. Unfortunately, the chair of the library wasn't able to make it tonight because he is ill, so I'm filling in. But quickly, we asked the library to present in a similar manner as the other departments, but certainly Mrs. Seymour is here for any questions that you may have. I certainly don't have the operating knowledge of the library that she does, so if there are any questions. The library is requesting a grant this year of $3.95 million. They also, I'll turn you to page 20 of the budget binder and 21. It'll show the that's an increase from 3.78, but they also have the benefit of some debt that is attributable to the library falling off. So the total expenditure increase is 2.8, and the majority of that is can be identified as we go through the presentation. They have 25 full-time people and 65 part-time people. The major activities, obviously, is that they provide a relevant, modern library service to the residents of Niagara Falls. It's more than just books and DVDs and information. They have early literacy programming, which average 50 sessions per week, and it's available for people as young as 4 months to 14 years. General interest in cultural adult programming, obviously a great need for local history, digital resources, and database. There's basic computer instruction that's provided and support for any new technologies, access to free internet and public computers, and it's a public meeting space for community groups and public service programs. So there are 4 locations that they operate out of. Obviously, the Victoria Avenue main branch, the Chippewa branch, Stanford Center, and then obviously the Community Center branch out of the McBain Center. There's a vehicle that they use, which is, like a lot of the vehicles, is getting long in the tooth. You can see that it was purchased in 2002. Not a lot of kilometers if you look at some of the vehicles, but significant, and it's used for deliveries and general errands between the 4 locations and also with the City Hall. As you may be aware, we share services at the city with the library. We provide the accounting and payroll, supply purchasing, building services, and vehicle maintenance. That is an operating efficiency that we've worked out over the years between the city and the library. Allows the library to focus on the things that they do best and their staff. They, in turn, assist the city departments with projects that they have expertise in. And just to mention a couple is Sports Wall of Fame and obviously the museum and the database operations. Moving along, the library board will be doing some service reviews, an organizational and service review, replacement of the current phone system. There's a report later in the meeting that talks about an RFP that came in, and that is under that program. The building is looking at, we're looking at energy efficiencies in the building and some homebound services. The funding challenges and pressures, these are similar to all of the city departments, but again, it's a separate board, salary and benefits, people moving in the pay grid. They're members of the OMERS program, and they're faced with the same increases that OMERS is, that are applicable for city staff. Training, utility costs have come up. Much like all of the other departments, we've asked the library to do the best that they can to find efficiencies to encompass any increased utility costs, and that to date they've been able to do that. in the long term, that might not be sustainable, but they've had that. Maybe we want to go back to the next slide. Appreciate that. I know you want to move me along as quick as we can, but I just want to give full due to the library. They're changing technologies. They are doing a major software update and catalog restructuring that's going to have to happen this year. They obviously have to meet the legislative requirements of the library and health and safety. And one of the things that's interesting with this is that they've been able to do the property infrastructure with their existing reserves. The library's been able to utilize reserves, and as you know, for those of you that have read the report that we're going to be dealing with later on, the increased cost of the phone system is being covered totally by the reserves that the library has. So that's a good thing. Accomplishments and future plans, as we indicated, all of the municipality is going to Office 2010 upgrade and Windows 7. There's some replacement of the public computer workstations. 2 of the locations have been recarpeted. The main staff work area at the Victoria is being refurbished. As you can see, this is the first time in many years. Certainly, these types of refurbishment projects are not done on a regular basis, similar to the City Hall. And developing a newsletter through an additional communications tool to assist in promotion of the services and programs the library offers. A couple other items is a unified and centralized web presence that'll come out in early 2013. Some analytical software, wireless internet needs bandwidth expansion. Are all things that are going to happen this year. So moving forward, I think that's pretty well it. But if there are any questions for Mrs. Seymour, I'm sure she'd be glad to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Councillor Iannoni?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm your council rep on the library board, and I will tell you that there are no bells and whistles, there is no fluff, there is no frills. They're running a bare bones. We've taken this budget and cut it back to what you have before you today. And I have to say they're a great group to work with. That library, all our libraries are exceedingly well used. And I think we're very lucky to have them in our community. And I have no problem recommending that this be referred to budget.
Okay. Are there any other?
Mr. Mayor, can we also, while they're here, can we also move report S 2013-06, which is the update to the phone system?
Okay. Under the consent agenda?
Yes. In your consent agenda, F 2013-06, budget amendment for library capital project.
Yep. Okay. First, we've got. Okay, first we've got a consent agenda being moved forward, F 2013-06. Is there any discussion to that consent agenda item? So regarding their phone system, that there was, it was more expensive, I understand, than they anticipated.
Oh, it's needed to be updated forever.
And so they used the reserves, I understand, to pay for the difference. Yes, Mr. Harrison?
Mr. Mayor, I just, the report just indicates that the project was put forth in the 2012 capital budget. There's been a slight increase after they've done our RFP. It's been approved by the board. This is more of a tidying up of our capital program. The funding, as you indicated, does come from reserves, so we're willing to move that an amendment be done to this capital project to allow them to go forward with their project.
Okay, are there any questions, first of all, to the motion from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that's approved. Thank you very much. And were there any other questions?
Refer to budget.
Okay, and also we're going to refer tonight's report to the budget. Moved by Councillor Iannoni, second by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Okay, it's approved unanimously. Were there any other questions regarding the budget on the library? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Seymour. Okay. just before, well, next up, and then we'll try to work this up here. Next up, we've got Parks, Recreation, and Culture Strategic Plan Update. Item 2 in the Recreation Matters now, and I'm going to ask our Acting Director, Ms. Moldenhauer, if you would please lead us in this presentation.
Thank you and good evening. The 2007 Strategic Plan for Parks, Recreation and Culture was developed to act as a guide for staff for the next 10 years in setting priorities and projects. Tonight I will be presenting to you a progress report to detail what staff have accomplished over the last 5 years, what we still do need to accomplish in the next 5, and to update our existing indoor and outdoor facility inventory. The projects that I will be recommending later on in the presentation do respond to the greatest community needs and to address maintaining our current inventory. To give you some background for this update, the update we did perform internally. As directed by Council, we went with a staff team coordinated by the CAO's office with staff from Recreation and Culture and Municipal Works. So the first item of the presentation tonight, we did update our key trends for recreation and leisure. And one very obvious trend, of course, is the high levels of physical inactivity and obesity. This can be contributed to a lack of time for people, screen time, online gaming, video games, television, of course, are very popular. And you can notice when you're out there in the community, you really do not see as many children out on the streets being active. All levels of government are examining ways to increase the physical activity, and the government will soon be coming out with a 2020 program to encourage the public to become active. Other general trends, definitely our population is aging, and we estimate by 2020 potentially 25 to 30% of our population will be over the age of 65. This will be an impact for recreation as we move possibly from very active activities to more passive activities and drop-in. There's also an impact of changing demographics and the need for more multicultural programming. Nationally, too, there is definitely a shift for multi-use facilities rather than single-use. Here in Niagara Falls, a perfect example is the McBain Community Center, where we do have different partners. We have the library, as mentioned, we have the YMCA, and it really is a one-stop shopping for your family unit, and this is becoming much more popular. Other trends that continue to exist across the province and the country, trails are very popular.
Excuse me, Ms. Moldenhauer, just on this point, Councillor Thompson had a comment on this point.
Yes, I'm glad to see that you've identified the demographics with respect to seniors and also talking about obesity and health and particularly health costs, not only to a municipality but to everybody, and the concentration is generally to sports and recreation and the young people. And I brought this up some time ago. In fact, I thought I would have some photographs tonight where in other countries they are shifting in some areas of their parks where they have recreation facilities, exercise facilities for seniors. Some of them are fairly basic, but I've seen one piece of equipment where there's just basically a bar with the feet on it and sort of like a elliptic type thing, about 8 or 10 of them, and seniors go there and take advantage of it rather than concentration just on playgrounds and things. Is there any thought, or it's probably a major budgetary, there could be a small example of starting a program like this, and I'm wondering if this is in your thinking in the future, and whether or not if other countries are doing it, they're way ahead of us. So do you have any comment on it?
We have definitely received catalogs of equipment, and tell them they actually have some pieces of equipment at some of their parks and playgrounds to encourage all adults of all ages to become more active. So it's definitely something we can look at with future park projects.
Okay, well, I think it's probably got to be discussed and brought up, or else nobody thinks about it. But hopefully we can, in fact, I think I sent all of the information to somebody over at Recreation in the past to try to, because it was brought to my attention from somebody who visited Brazil.
Right,
and they had all kinds of seniors exercise equipment in their parks in conjunction with the others. And I think Councilor Maves and Gates would really appreciate that kind of activity, I think.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, and we recently had some information come over that we sent over to Ms. Moldenhauer. We got Councilor Wing and then Councilor Carrio.
Just following up on Councillor Thompson's remarks, it's probably a good time right now to remind the council that not too long after we had a presentation about age-friendly communities, I had a request that benches be placed in our city parks so that seniors who live near those parks can walk there and find a place to stop and rest if they're tired when they get there. So I think sometimes just putting a bench to encourage people to take that walk to the park, which they might otherwise not take, is helpful as well. So if that could be included when they look at doing this additional stuff, I think that would be a good addition too.
Okay, thank you. That's noted. And Councilor Carrio?
To go back to that last slide, Your Worship, the council already reflects those numbers, that approximately 25% of the council is over the age of 65, and it's only 2013.
All right, thank you. We'll continue on.
Okay, we'll continue. As I mentioned, trails are very popular due to popularity of walking and cycling. And we still do find that arena sports continue to be in demand, particularly during prime time hours. And there's definitely increased pressure now for elite sports facilities for training and competition. A perfect example is hockey. No longer people simply playing hockey from October to April. They play year-round, and this is why, of course, we do have summer ice at the Gale Center. Sport tourism, as we definitely know in our community, is a growing market. And it definitely staff needed to focus on family recreation and destinations. And we do hear from many tournament organizers, people want to come here to Niagara Falls because of our attractions. Other trends, the existing recreation infrastructure is aging, and this therefore causes customer service and funding challenges. We need to look at our aging facilities to consider if we're going to repurpose them, if we're going to close them. People also want to live near parks and open spaces, and it's important when we're looking at new developments that this is very important to people. And the focus on green construction and facility retrofitting to result in increased capital costs, but definitely lower operating costs down the road. We wanted to give you some participation trends here in Niagara Falls. When we did this update, the Recreation Committee wanted to make sure that we weren't just talking about national trends or provincial trends, but also looking right here in Niagara Falls. This year, we had some new groups participate. Ultimate Frisbee and cricket are new to Niagara Falls. Baseball numbers are declining throughout the region, but they continue to increase here in Niagara Falls. We know that we have wonderful baseball diamonds, but we also know that we have some of the lowest user fees. So we're not too sure if it's our facilities or our low fees. There is definitely increase in adult participation in organized field sports. We've had more adults want to get involved in soccer. Some interesting challenges with technology. Baseball and slow pitch, the bat technology is creating challenges. So the men can no longer play at some of the fields that they had played at in the past because they're hitting them out. And soccer continues to change the size of their fields. This coming season for the younger age groups are also looking at smaller fields to encourage more touches from the players. This slide here is just registration statistics for all of our sports groups. We did send out a survey to the groups, And where we had the numbers from 2007 to 2012, we have provided them on the slide. Some of them, of course, have remained consistent. Others, such as baseball, you can see a slight decrease for girls, but an increase with GNBA, an overall increase in soccer. And then, of course, we've got some of our new sports there at the bottom that have just started.
Ms. Moldenhauer, just on that slide, Councillor Gates?
Yeah, I just want to go back to the last slide, actually, if you can. Yeah, that talks about baseball numbers are declining overall, but increasing in Niagara Falls. And I sit on the recreation, and I want to raise the fact that there are concerns with some of our citizens that sit on the recreation committee on the loss of the Optimus Park and the concern that we're going to have enough diamonds, and also the quality of diamonds. So I think that's something that I think, in fairness to the citizens that sit on that committee, that we raise that as well. And quite frankly, I think it's a hardball that's really going up in Niagara Falls. And I actually believe that with some of the things that's happened with the good things that's happened with the Toronto Blue Jays, very similar to what you saw when they were in the World Series, there's a real spike in hardball right across the province, and I think you may see that even coming this summer. So it's just a point to raise on behalf of the citizens.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Thompson?
Yes, just to follow up on that, and we were discussing this for the meeting. The people want to come here for tournaments. We've lost the Optimus Park. There's an email in our information here from Mr. Miller, who brings the slow pitch tournaments here, indicating that we were looking at doing something with the creating additional ones at Cummings Park, and yet now that is not in the budget. I think that's a pretty serious problem, and one we should be debating and discussing here, because not only does it bring tournaments here, creates jobs, tourism, if we get to the point where we lose that, I think that would be pretty devastating, certainly for the community as far as jobs and tourism, but also I don't think I'd like to see that provincial and national tournaments leaving this city, and I think they like coming here, and I'd like to continue that, so that's a debate we should be saying. From a personal point of view, I say let's do it and keep them here, by all means.
Okay. Well, yes, Councillor Morocco?
I fully support Councillor Thompson's move on that, and I think it's unfortunate that Mr. Miller did not receive this information until today, and he's away and he's not able to comment on it, although he was addressed in an email and then copied us. So I think this is something that we've been talking about, but seems to be ignored, the fact of this need. And I actually did leave a message with Mr. Holman today and asked how many soccer tournaments have been played out in Patrick Cummings Park. The neighbors tell me very few, maybe one an entire summer, so if you can maybe respond to that.
Ms. Mulder, did you want to address that? Because we have two main issues.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
One is
Sorry.
the soccer pitch out at, no, it's okay, the soccer pitch out at Cummings Park, and the conversion of it, and that was the one issue. And then the other issue that Councillor Gates, not an issue, but I think he's just pointing out a trend. I think he's absolutely right. This happened in the early 90s when the Jays won the 2 World Series. Hardball spiked and it went crazy for about a decade. So I'm guessing, like you say, they've got a contender, and we want to be proactive and ready for it with that demand. But just, did you want to comment on the soccer pitch conversion at Cummings Park, please? Thank you.
The 2 multi-purpose fields that are out at Patrick Cummings Park, they open this summer early August. The utilization definitely was very low because they did open mid-season, and you're correct, I think it was only soccer AC Douglas was maybe out there to use it, and that was the only use for this summer. We had a very active debate among staff with the multi-purpose fields and with the request from Slopage National to look at converting the fields to baseball diamonds. We really feel that we need to give the fields at least another season so we have a true record of their utilization, because they didn't open until August. We do have some adult soccer groups that are interested in going out to the fields. So in the recommended projects that I will get to later, you will not see it on the list. But on the attachment number 4, with a summary of user comments and staff comments, we have stated that we will monitor the utilization to determine if we need to convert the fields in the future.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mulder. But just to that point, and you have actually touched on sports tourism and how important it is. I would think that sports tourism, the provincial and national baseball actually brings in people from all around and actually fills our hotel rooms and our restaurants. And I think that's important. We can't lose focus of that. And you know, if you're just telling me that there's very little usage there from the soccer, I think we really have to sit down with the baseball people and say, what is their needs? I think we need to have an analysis done on what kind of money they're bringing in compared to the soccer, what they're bringing in, and the usage, and making sure that we're getting the best ROI on that piece of property. And that's what it's all about. So we want to make sure that we're getting the best use, and we're making sure that we're not going to lose the opportunity, as Councillor Thompson said, where they go somewhere else. I think that would be quite devastating after we've had reports that show that it does bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars into our city.
As CAO, I'd like to...
So I'd like to have an opportunity to have Bill Miller set the table and speak with us.
Yeah, if I could just, Mr. Mayor, just speak to the one item, because we have had several conversations with Mr. Miller, and as you know, we worked very hard to accommodate the slow pitch from moving it over from Optimist over to Chippewa, over to Patrick Cummings. Did find a home for them. We're able to accommodate their hosting site with the arena, and Mr. Miller was overall, I think, pretty satisfied with the way things went this year. I think as we move forward in the future, he would like to see more diamonds there. But this year we were able to pretty much accommodate what he needs. And I think what the report's saying tonight is that, you know, when we went into the development of the Patrick Cummings Park and got the rink funding from the province and the feds, you know, we did not know at that point that Optimist Park was not going to be there. I think in retrospect, if we had have known that, we probably would have planned that park differently. But at the time, we had this beautiful Optimist Park facility with, what, 8 diamonds or 6 diamonds, I guess, and thought, okay, we need help in soccer. So, you know, in fairness to the staff, at that time, the thinking was that was the way to go. I mean, hindsight's all good, but I think what we're saying is we just really don't know. We're not ruling out the idea. We're just saying that if you look at the report here today, we've got about $3 million in capital spending that we need to put into our existing parks and facilities just to keep us up. We've got some other asks in here of another $3 million. The something like $700,000 or $800,000 to convert those diamonds is certainly an expenditure that we need to keep addressed to keep those tournaments here. It's just that we felt we needed to kind of find out whether there was any other solutions or whether the utilization of those soccer, you know, we don't want to go and make a bad decision on converting soccer diamonds when we find 2 or 3 years down the road we need more soccer diamonds, and maybe there's another solution. So I think the compromise here was to say we're not ruling it out, but we just want a little bit more time to look at whether or not the utilization on those soccer pitches are going to be there, and if not, within this 5-year time frame we can convert and suggest that we look at a conversion to accommodate the slow pitch. So
to your comments, I appreciate that, but I have to say that with all due respect, I think at the time that negotiations were going on about whether they were going to change soccer and to baseball, vice versa, there was talk that the Optimist was going to be sold at that time, and where would it go? So, you know, I don't know, hearsay is it that did we make a mistake by converting those diamonds back into soccer, and now we're stuck with a situation that Optimist is now gone, and we're now looking for more diamonds for this sport, for the baseball. I just don't want to think that it's totally gone, and I have to say that by the email I'm seeing from Mr. Miller, he did not seem to think that that's the route we were going tonight. He had another impression of where we were going with the diamonds at Patrick Cummings Park, and I know that there's been a number of people out there that have also been lobbying to hopefully get that back. It's just a perfect setting, and it works great to have your clubhouse right there and all the diamonds for the baseball in one place. I think it's beneficial to the players that are coming, and access is huge, and I think it's sold to them, and that's what Mr. Miller is happy about, that he's actually been able to sell it to the players as a good venue for and to stay here. So I hope this doesn't deter them.
Okay. Councillor Thompson?
Well, I appreciate the response from the CAO However, I think what we're looking for here is some assurance from Mr. Miller that he is willing to wait a year to assess this, and if he's thinking of anything else, moving out or looking at other venues, then I know where I stand with respect to this. It's let's work with him and get it done. If he's satisfied that he's willing to work with what he has there in hopes that we'll have a solution for him, but keeping the tournaments here in the city. If we can have that assurance from him, obviously not tonight, but as soon as we can, then I think that has to come back to council. And I would suggest that I'd make a motion that we have some assurance back from Mr. Miller that he's willing to work with us and stay with us in the Cummings Park until such time as we resolve what we're doing with the slow pitch soccer facilities there.
Okay, well, we've got a motion by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Morocco, that basically you're suggesting we reach out to Mr. Miller and confirm that his commitment to stay here until we've assessed the situation and made a decision on what we're going to do. Can we get some feedback, CEO?
Well, Mr. Mayor, we'll sit down with Mr. Miller and we'll provide him, where staff's position is right now. And again, we have not in any way ruled out the possibility of doing that. We're just saying we need a little bit more time to review it. It's quite a bit of money, and we had other priorities, but I think we need to sit down and have that conversation with him, because I think where Mr. Miller was disappointed is that in the last draft that he saw at the public meeting, we were indicating there that it would be in the 5-year plan. And after further review and discussion, when we saw the budget numbers, we said, well, you know what, maybe we better slow down a bit and just have another look at it, not ruling out the fact that we may do it, but not specifically recommended that we do it next year or within the next 2 years, but that there be another review of it within a year time once we get 1 full year of operation of those soccer pitches under our belt. But we'll certainly sit down and have a meeting with Mr. Miller. I guess if he's away, as soon as he gets back, we'll do that.
And
report back to council.
And just before we call the vote, I'm sorry, Councillor Gates?
Yeah, just maybe somebody could answer this question, because I got the email too from Mr. Miller, and I actually sent him back something, but I didn't get from his email that he was threatening to pull out or do anything like that. I didn't get that from the email, but obviously they've gone to that location. My understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, they were extremely pleased last year with the entire tournament. I know we'd like to have all 8 diamonds out there. Obviously, it's a lot easier for scheduling, a lot easier for the beer tents that they run out there. I get all that, but I certainly didn't get that from his email today. But maybe somebody from staff could help me. We have about 6 weeks of tournaments, 5-6 weeks of slow pitch. How much revenue would be collected from slow pitch national for utilizing those parks those weeks? Would anybody have that figure?
I believe we had an economic impact study done a number of years ago.
This is just a few.
No, I'm not asking. I understand the economic impact. I've seen that a number of times. Matter of fact, I encouraged Mr. Miller to get that to the city to understand the importance of the tourism and the jobs. What I'm asking is how much money physically comes into the city from the 5 or 6 weeks of the slow pitch tournaments that obviously I think is important to know as well, on rentals and the fees and stuff.
Okay.
The actual fees that the city collects for the use of the baseball diamonds during Slow Pitch National for the 6 weekends, we collect $7,507 is what we collect for our user fees.
And that's over what period of
6
time?
weekends.
6 weekends.
That's it.
That's all? For the amount of money they generate for themselves, that's all we
personally collect for the use of our baseball diamonds. We have very reasonable fee structure.
I say we do.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, you recall when we put things in a couple of years ago, we had a pretty good debate on this, and all the groups were here. Those were the rates that we ended up agreeing on, and I think you'd all have to agree they're very reasonable rates for that kind of utilization.
Yeah. And Mr. Mayor, if I do remember correct, to Councillor Gates' point, the leverage they used was if you raise your rates, you're out of here. That clearly was the debate that took place here. But quite frankly, I expected her to give us a much bigger number than that, considering what they bring in.
Well, you know, it's funny, it's got two sides to it. We also have sports tourism incentives for bringing them here, you know, so it's kind of that trade-off because the economic impact, because I know when they come here, they're in all the Walmarts, you know, they're in all the rest, they're all over the city, yeah, and visiting. Zellers. Yes, Councillor May.
Your Worship, I'm really think too, to some degree, might be a little overworking this thing. Having chaired a couple of All Canada baseball tournaments myself back in the old days, we were always able to borrow a few diamonds from Thorold or Welland or St. Catharines, and I don't think we'd lose our tourist business because somebody had to play a game in St. Catharines. I played a lot of slow pitch myself, and every now and again you would wind up in a diamond that was in Burger Park or someplace in St. Catharines or Welland, and I really don't think it's that big a concern. They're a well-organized outfit that run this thing, and I'm sure they can borrow some diamonds from out of town, and I really think that we're a little concerned over this too heavily, and I think too, I don't think there's another city that has the accommodations in proximity to the ballparks that we have too, so I'm not really that concerned about it, to tell you the truth. I think we've got lots of space, and as I say, we can utilize other diamonds that are in close proximity to us. And I think we can save ourselves some money there.
Any other comments? And one other thing I would like to mention, because I did go down there, yes, in 1 second. I did go down during the tournament this past summer, and I did go and view the facilities, went through the arena to see how it was working, and it was clearly working out well. And the soccer pitch was empty, but for obvious reasons. And I think it's somewhere in the report that the new bats and balls, the balls go farther, and that's a challenge for some of our smaller diamonds. And yeah, so none of the kids don't want to be out in the field. You don't want your kids out in the field just in case there's some fly balls that end up, you know, going stray, and they happen quite often. So that's also maybe the two, you know, uses aren't necessarily congruent, but something to work out. The other thing too is, you know, I don't know, we'd have to do a comparison obviously of field fees that we get for soccer. And also, the other concern too is if we get a group comfortable with using that park, it'll be that much harder to convert it later on. Something else just to think. But Ms. Moldenhauer had some, you had some comment you wanted to make in this
Yes,
regard?
with the slow pitch weekends, they do utilize diamonds in St. Catharines and Niagara on the Lake as well. And Fort Colborne as well, and I know they approach City of Thorold, so they definitely do look at surrounding municipalities to use their diamonds.
There's no doubt Niagara Falls has a huge advantage, especially in infrastructure. That's pretty hard to compete with, there's no doubt. Even if they play in Welland, they're probably going to stay here. But at the same time, you know, there are some communities like London creeping up, building a lot more motels and hotels, and they have university and college residences that they use, and we want to make sure we stay on top of the game. But in the meantime, there is a motion moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Morocco. And Mr. Clerk, would you be able to read that motion?
Staff work with Bill Miller.
Yeah. Yeah, to confirm that he understands our ongoing working with him and that that we report back to council. So that's the motion. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. All right, thank you very much. You can continue on, Ms. Moldenhauer.
Okay. Move on
At
to the
this
next
rate,
slide.
it'll be done tomorrow.
I know. Just before we continue, we just wanted to go over to what the department's delivery philosophy is, and that's the next slide. We are community development. Other municipalities, their parks and recreation departments, they provide direct programming. We don't. So it's very important for our department to develop cooperative relationships. It's definitely a priority to develop and deliver recreation services. It's also important that, individuals have the capability to design and manage their own leisure time with departmental encouragement and support. And we hope that by providing an environment conducive to self-help, that we're providing our citizens with greater opportunities to develop their individual abilities. This is why we really encourage people to volunteer, whether it's on one of our 4 committees of council or at one of our special events. And the hope is that with greater community involvement with our services, that our citizens definitely have a greater sense of citizenship and civic consciousness. The next slides focus on the action plans that were identified in the 2007 strategic plan. This is attachment number 3 with the report. There were actually 23 identified action steps, and I'm just going to be reporting right now on what we have achieved during the last 5 years. The first one, it was important for staff to define exactly what is the department's role in community development. Staff did participate in training. We have developed effective partnerships, some examples of the Boys and Girls Club that opened, of course, in June 2011. Niagara United Soccer Club, we did partner with them for the outdoor turf field at Kaler in 2008. We continue to evaluate any of our community partnerships, programs, and services provided by the department. And we did look at our committee structure. We actually did merge the Trails and Bikeways Committee with the Park and the City Committee. We had made a recommendation to merge Arts and Culture with Recreation as well. And we will be looking again at all of our committees for the next term of council. With our delivery system, we've actually had quite a lot of changes over the last 5 years. February 2011, Niagara Falls Museum, they integrated, of course, with the city and with the Recreation and Culture Department. We went through a mini restructuring this year, well, actually last year, April 2012, just to reflect our current needs. Our total staff is 43 full-time, and we do currently have 1 vacant position. And part-time, our staff ranges from about 8 to 62 because we do have part-time staff throughout the year with arenas, with museums, and then, of course, in the summer with aquatics. There were a number of policies that had to be developed or updated as identified in the strategic plan. We have developed a turf allocation policy, ice allocation policy, and we will be bringing forward this year a field allocation policy to be consistent with the other allocation policies. The public art policy was revised with a recommendation to develop a public art advisory task force, and this is one recommendation that we do want to bring forward this year. As mentioned, we did develop playing field user fees. This was quite an accomplishment because up till 2010 we had no user fees for our playing fields. The fee-for-service funding agreements, we continue to evaluate them with our providers and just to look at them to see if we do have the right fit with them. We have developed 10-year capital plans as well for all of our major facilities. And we are looking at our special event volunteer recruitment and training guidelines, and again trying to encourage more volunteers for the entire department. We have developed an update, and we plan to update annually, the recreation facilities and parkland inventory. This was one of the documents that was included in your large package tonight, and we have shared that inventory with our committee members and with the public that did attend our community meeting in December. And we do plan on having the facility inventory on the website as well because it's really great so you can see what park offers what amenities. One big accomplishment for the department was the implementation of the class booking and registration system. Up to 5 years ago, we were actually doing all of our booking on paper. Now it's all on the computer. It's easier to generate utilization reports, to generate revenue reports, and it's really been a success. It was a little hard implementing it, but in the end it's worked out really well for everyone. Also identified in the plan, the service areas. It was identified that with programming, that we needed to look at more special events for arts and culture. This year, we did introduce some new special events at the Niagara Falls Market. We had market happenings taking place on Saturdays from May until the fall. Also through the Niagara Region Culture Capitals of Canada, we did have Niagara Nights of Art down at the museum and at the market. I think it was a huge success, and we definitely hope to do something like that again this year. And we do continue to deliver and support citywide special events such as Canada Day and Santa Claus Parade. Facility and Park Action Plans. 2007, the plan had identified that there was an unmet aquatic demand. This need has been met now with the Boys and Girls Club opening. This is a great partnership, so rather than the city building a brand new facility, the needs accomplished through the Boys and Girls Club. We continue to monitor the needs for outdoor recreation facilities and definitely looking at potential partnerships. Sports tourism policy had been identified that we needed to develop one for our city, and this of course was implemented in 2011. Other accomplishments, we did develop Adopt a Park, Adopt a Trails program. Park service standards, design standards have been completed. Prepared park maintenance and operational standards. Reviewed BIA beautification budgets and standards as well. All right, now to the asks with our project. With attachment number 4, we identified all of our current facilities. We also included on this chart comments from our users that we did collect from our questionnaire, staff comments, and then of course our final recommendations. What became very clear to staff is that we really do have a significant inventory that we do need to take care of. And some of the items on the inventory, such as tennis courts and basketball courts, play structures, have really been neglected over time. So now you can see that there is significant dollars that we do need to spend in order to maintain our inventory. Project number 1, and of course these are all recommendations, is Prince Charles Park. We actually have received half of the funding for this project. Is to do a complete master plan for the park. We're looking at converting the existing wading pool to a proper splash pad, designing walkways for the park, a new playground, and putting in a new liner as well for the pool. The next one is Oaks Park, just looking at parking and track improvements in 2014. Tennis courts, we estimate over the next 5 years, approximately 10 courts will need to get resurfaced. Basketball court resurfacing, playground replacements, looking at 18 parks. And then the last item on this list is due to the demand at Patrick Cummings Park, especially with the Slowfitch National weekends coming in, we do need additional parking there, so we are recommending a gravel parking lot at the south side of the park. So the total you could see there is close to $3.5 million to maintain our current inventory. The next list are recommended new projects. The first one on the list is a second artificial outdoor turf field. We're recommending a north end location. At this point, there's a few parks that we could place an artificial turf field. We're recommending a turf field because definitely right now, and you can see in the attachments, football currently is playing at school board properties rather than at city fields. And they have stated to us that they would like to play on an artificial turf field. Soccer too, we cannot accommodate all of the requests from Niagara Falls Soccer with boys at the existing Kaler Park. So this is why we're recommending a second outdoor artificial turf field. The Lundy's Lane Battlefield Heritage Park is our next project, just with interpretive signage and trails throughout the park. The leash-free dog park we're recommending, and with this park, I don't know if you have visited the existing dog park at Fireman's Park, but it's people love it, and they are asking for a south end location. Trail development. With trail development here, there were a number of recommendations that came out of the Transportation Master Plan with the active transportation section that identified certain trails that needed to be developed just to connect our existing trail network. And the last item is our Culture Services Master Plan. It was identified in the strategic plan. The recommendation was for a feasibility study for a culture resource center, but we're recommending a culture services master plan because we really want to have an independent consultant come in and look at the culture needs of our community. So the total cost here for new projects that we're recommending to be considered, of course, with the capital budget is just a little over $3 million. Indoor facility recommendations. We have completed 10-year capital plan for all city-owned facilities. I put in brackets building services because there are a number of city buildings that culture organizations do use, such as Peterson's. They're at the old Chippewa Town Hall. And we definitely need to look at our facilities to determine what improvements over the next 5 years and 10 years need to be made. We need to develop a proper facility plan just to determine if we can better utilize the facilities, whether they can be used for community use or should we be declaring them surplus. You can see in the attachment we're not recommending any other indoor facilities. It's simply to look at our current inventory. And that concludes our plan.
All right, thank you very much. Well done. We'll start off. We do have some questions. Councillor Thompson and Iannoni.
Just a question. I recall, I think there's 18 tennis courts in the city. You're recommending 10. I recall a couple of years ago a comment at a council meeting where they said that tennis was not as popular as it was, and they were looking at the number of courts they have existing. Have we done that? Is it actually not as popular as it was? And are we taking that into consideration in the recommendation for 10 resurfacing of the courts?
Ms. Moldenhauer?
Yes. What municipal works staff, what they are doing when they have a park open house for the neighborhoods, they do have a plan, and if there is an existing tennis court, they're actually asking the residents if they want that existing court to remain, or if they would prefer, say, perhaps a tennis court, if there's another amenity that they would like for that park. Staff were surprised that people are actually saying, no, we want our tennis courts. So although I think we were told before it was declining in popularity, there seems to be in pockets of this community that tennis is still very popular. And as mentioned, we do want to encourage people to become active, but we're not just going in and converting it. We are checking with the community.
Okay. Councillor Iannoni?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. Moldenhauer. Councillor Morocco and I received an email today from the Niagara Falls summer swim lessons. I don't know if everybody got it. Councillor Morocco and I did. And could Ms. Moldenhauer please explain why we are phasing out the volunteers of the Niagara Falls swim lessons? We provide them with a grant of $12,000 a year, and they provide the summer swim lessons at our pool. My understanding via the letter that we got today is those volunteers will no longer be utilized, that the city will now be providing those services, and that includes registration, providing the summer swim lessons, doing the registration. We'd have to train people to oversee them. We'd have to have 2 coordinators. There's a list of things here. The reason we're getting this email today, and it's highlighted at the front of this email and the back of this email, was that it says we were told that in order to have this process go through properly, we were encouraged not to speak to council members till it came to council. Now, that's what we're here for, and I think that this conversation probably could have been had should they have been encouraged to contact a council member because they wanted to, and maybe we could have had this discussion outside of this council chamber. But I'd like to know why, when she has highlighted encouraging our volunteers and how short we are on cash, why we would be switching it to us providing the service as opposed to the Niagara Falls summer swim lessons. And I'd like to see a report that shows us what it's going to cost us to do it as opposed to them do it. You have volunteers who've been volunteering 20 years in this city, and the entire group feels extremely slighted.
Yes. I will be addressing this concern actually during my budget presentation. And we, as staff, we would never direct anybody not to contact council. It has been open dialogue. We've had probably about 2 to 3 meetings with them, and we've also discussed this item at the Recreation Committee meetings, I think our October meeting or November meeting. But I will be discussing it more during the budget presentation.
Okay, Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the letter that we got in closing, the person emailed says, lastly, I would like to comment on the way a long-standing volunteer committee has been treated during this process. We feel we've been told, watch the door doesn't hit you on the way out. There was no transition period offered. The logic of the city now using numerous staff hours to do what a volunteer committee did for free over 30 years is mind-boggling. You know, these ladies have been doing the summer swim program forever and a day. And I'd like to know how the process, this wasn't sent lightly. I think they're concerned they are having to pull council in. And again, if she's going to explain it in the budget, I understand that. But we have a volunteer committee that we just highlighted we were supposed to be treating better. And they don't feel that way.
Okay, fair comment, and I think Ms. Moldenhauer said she's going to address that in her upcoming budget. Were there any other questions? And by the way, the new projects that are on the screen here, that's over a 5-year period as well.
Correct.
So that's not for this fiscal year. Yeah, Councillor Wing.
Just trying to see what section it was. It was there was a part about the Chippewa Arena and repurposing it for the summer. I was wondering if any consideration had been given to turning it into a roller rink for summer use, as it once was. It was a popular activity there when I was growing up, I know. And with the rise of interest in roller derby, I can see possibly that being something that would appeal to a lot of the population. I actually looked into the availability of roller rinks myself, and there are some over Niagara Falls, New York, Tonawanda area, but the closest in Canada is actually Mississauga. So it might be something to consider if there's not a lot of cost and we don't have any other pressing use for that arena facility in the summer months.
Any comment on that, Ms. Moldenhauer?
We can look into that.
Okay, good, good. I know the CAO's been itching to get his old steel roller skates out, so that's great. Any other questions or comments on this part of the report by council? Okay. Okay. Okay, Ms. Moldenhauer, now, okay, so we're looking for approval of this one. Here's the report. We've got the report that goes along with this presentation. There it is. Just at the beginning. So there's 2 recommendations. One, that council approve the Parks, Rec, and Culture Strategic Plan update. And secondly, that the capital project recommendations included in this update be referred to future budget process. Okay, moved by Councillor Carrio, seconded by Councillor Mays. Any discussion to the motion?
Based on the motion brought forward.
Yes. Councillor Morocco?
No, just based on the motion also included that Councillor Thompson brought forward.
Yes. Yeah, which was a separate motion that we made. Exactly right. Okay, so we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. All right, excellent. Thank you. Okay, and now you'll do your budget presentation, Ms. Moldenhauer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The Recreation and Culture Department operating budget, you'll find the information in the budget binder, pages 220 to 282. The departmental 2013 net budget is $8,423,634. You'll notice on the next line, 2012, there definitely is a significant increase. The increase that I'll speak to later on in the presentation is mainly due to the museum bringing it on board now for a full year of operation, because of course we opened the museum up in July of 2012. The next slide, I did touch on our staff complement for the department in the strategic plan presentation. This just breaks it down for you by the areas, kind of where our staff are working at. So I'll quickly just go over that one. Of course, arenas and pool maintenance is where the bulk of our departmental staff are working, and that includes 3 supervisors. We do have coordination center, community development team, our community and customer service that are located at the Gale Center and the museum as well. Our responsibility centers, we do have the 2 community centers that we are responsible for maintaining the facilities and the programming. McBain Community Center being a facility where we have numerous partners, so of course it's all indirect programming. Coronation Center is our older adult center, where staff are responsible for the programming and special events throughout the year. The next item is community development. The community development team, they are responsible for our committees of council. We do have the Park and City Committee, we have Recreation Committee, Arts and Culture, and of course Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee. We are responsible for citywide special events such as Canada Day, Santa Claus Parade, volunteer recognition, our leisure guide, which we are actually working on creating more of a municipal guide to include more city information, and staff do liaise with various recreation and culture organizations. The arenas, Gale Center and Chippewa Arena. Customer service team that works out of the Gale Center Arena, they are responsible for booking all of our parks and recreation facilities, and they do liaise with various user groups and partners. Summer aquatics, we are responsible for maintaining our outdoor pools, and we do also, of course, hire lifeguards for the supervision during public swim. And the last one on the list is the Niagara Falls History Museum and our applicable heritage properties. That includes the Battleground Hotel Museum and Willoughby Historical Museum as well. With our responsibility centers, you can see at the total for arenas is over $3 million. This year you will notice that there is a slight increase in labor at Gale Center and a slight decrease in labor at Chippewa Arena. This fall, we adopted a 10-hour shift for arena employees. In the past, our staff at all of our arenas were sometimes working up to 7 to 8 days in a row. With the introduction of a 10-hour shift, they're now working 4 to 5 days in a row with 3 to 4 days off. We have gone in this direction hoping to increase productivity, to decrease sick time. We also made a change in the supervisor schedule. With the 3 supervisors, we now have coverage during the day starting at 6:30 in the morning, and supervisors are there until closing at midnight, and they also, of course, are working on the weekends. The difference in the labor costs is we now only have 2 staff that work out at Chippewa Arena. Chippewa Arena is only open afternoon, evenings, Monday to Friday, and on the weekends. So we have 2 staff at Chippewa and 16 staff that do work out of the Gale Center Arena. The next item is pool maintenance. There is an 11% increase with this for our summer pool operation. There was an increase in the repairs that are needed for the pools due to our aging infrastructure, overtime, and also with our contract services with the expense for security. The next item is the Coronation Center. There was actually a decrease here. We actually do have a reduction in the program expenses. Coronation Center, right now we do have approximately 1,400 members there, and again they have various different activities that they participate in throughout the week. Community development and events. There was a slight increase with the event budgets with the Santa Claus Parade. And we're also, I will be bringing a report forward to Council in February regarding our recommendation for our new location for Canada Day. So there will be some new additional costs with Canada Day and Santa Claus Parade. McBain Community Center, we actually did see a slight decrease in our maintenance costs. There will, however, down the road, be future capital costs for this facility as right now the building's 8 years of age. Niagara Falls History Museum, as you can see from the chart, there's a 60% increase. This is due to our first full year of operation. There was an increase, of course, in the staffing costs, the materials, and our contracted services. We actually do show right now on our budget for the museum, you can see the cost of the debt repayment with the interest and the principal as well. Some interesting statistics for the department. ICE user fees with our revenues, we're actually looking at, we did collect over $1.5 million. Last minute ICE that we really started to promote April 2012. We've collected $40,000. People seem to really respond to this last minute ICE. Over the Christmas holidays, we had a lot of kind of the late evening hours booked. People really liked this, the ICE at the lower cost. And approximately 5% increase in the overall ICE user fees, and our summer prime time, we did notice an increase of approximately 17% when we compare it to 2011. And for the bulk of this past summer, we did only have 3 pads of ice as compared to 4, and that is how we're going to be operating for this upcoming spring and summer season as well. The Niagara Falls History Museum, even though we did open up in July, when we compare our attendance number to the last kind of year that they did collect stats, which was in 2009, there is a 26% increase. Staff have informed me the numbers actually increased now to 7,717 attendance numbers as of the end of December. We did have 721 tours, and this included school groups, and we hope to have a lot more next year. Research inquiries is a new item that they're tracking now, and we have received 108. Website visitors, over 27,000, and we did introduce some new Thursday evening programming. And with the programming, it's actually a free night to visit the museum, and we had a film series which was quite popular. Special events, this is an estimate. We never know exactly how many people do attend our Canada Day and Santa Claus Parade, but we hope that we had approximately 7,000 or more participants at the events. Arts and culture events, we wanted to report on the Niagara Night of Arts. Again, it's a rough estimate, but we believe there's approximately 1,000 people there. Arts and Culture Wall of Fame, approximately 380. We had a great turnout this year. Market events, again, we don't know the exact numbers, but we definitely know that having the events there increased the visitors to the market. Park in the City, I've kind of collectively put them all in there. They organize various different events, approximately 850. Arbor Day, Community Clean Sweep, Ride of Silence, Summer Trillium Awards, Schools in Bloom, and then this year we had the opening of the dog park. Other events that we do run, volunteer recognition, which we had a great turnout for this year, and the city does assist as well with the Terry Fox Run. Number of vehicles, we have 3 pickup trucks that are assigned to the arenas, 1 van for pool maintenance. We have 5 ice resurfacers, and we have a new Zamboni coming this September. Building resources, of course, we have Gale Center Arena, Chippewa Willoughby Arena, McBain, Coronation Center, Niagara Falls History Museum, and the 5 outdoor pools. Okay, reviews being undertaken. This year with summer aquatic programming, staff have been looking at the relationship that we've had with Niagara Falls Summer Swim Lessons. And in the past, this volunteer committee, they did receive a fee for service of approximately $13,000. The fee for service that Niagara Falls Summer Swim Lessons was provided did pay for a coordinator and paid for the summer swim instructors. When staff were looking at our fee for service agreements, they looked at what would it cost the city to run this program. We're not hiring any additional coordinators. We already have 2 coordinators that work with us in the summer that do look after the outdoor pools. The lessons would be operated on a break-even basis. The instructors, of course, are our employees right now. The volunteers, if there are any volunteers, of course, with Niagara Falls Swim Lessons that wanted to work with the city, we would definitely invite them to work with us. We have the skills to do this. Staff has actually been looking into the possibility of coordinating the summer swim lessons for a couple of years. And the reason why we're recommending this at this time is we can actually save $10,000. And we wanted to look at the fee-for-service agreements that we have and determine if it should be provided by another outside agency or if the city can actually do this at a lower cost. We did discuss this at a Recreation Committee meeting. The committee members, they felt that if the city could save $10,000 and we can still meet the needs of the community, that we should try to coordinate the summer swim lessons for this year. If there's another option too, could be that we work with the Niagara Falls Summer Swim Lessons and perhaps the city doesn't coordinate it for this year, but perhaps we look at coordinating it in 2014. But the push with the lessons is we really feel that we can save at least $10,000 and we can still offer the lessons at the same standard that the community is used to. The second review that we're going to be looking at for this year is our pool maintenance. Pools only operate for 2 months of the year, and we feel that we should be reducing the costs associated with the pool maintenance. We want to look at the hours that staff are working, to look at the training. Perhaps we need more staff that are trained rather than having only a core group that we do have to call in for overtime. So we are looking at our costs associated with pool maintenance.
Excuse me, Ms. Moldenhauer.
Yep.
Councillor Iannone.
Thank you, through you to Ms. Moldenhauer. So can my response be back to the summer swim team that it's looking to be phased in, and are they going to be providing the 2012 and 13 lessons, or is the city going to be providing the 2012 and 13 lessons?
For 2013, at this point in time, I'm recommending that the city take it over.
So they would be doing it this year and this would be their last year?
2013 would be this summer?
I'm sorry, this summer.
Yeah. So I'm recommending...
So they are no longer going to be contracted to us, or we're no longer going to be paying them for their services?
That's what I'm recommending.
Okay, and I'm told that there will be a report coming forward. Okay.
Okay, other goals for 2013 is to continue to implement the new Gale Center facility.
Excuse me, Ms. Moldenhauer,
yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Gates, you had a comment on that?
Yeah, just to obviously the email that was received by Councillor Iannone and Councillor Morocco. What dialogue have you had with the group prior to bringing this forward tonight? I think as we've gone through and met as a committee, and I've stood up in council a number of times, one of the things that I've always said is they have to communicate with people, particularly volunteers who give up their time. I don't know the arrangement on this, on how you did the fees and all that stuff, but the reality is that when people are volunteering in this community, we have to treat them with respect. We have to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And I guess my question to you is that what dialogue have we had with this group that's been doing it for how long, Councillor Iannone?
20 years.
20 years. I would think that hopefully we've had a lot of communication with them to explain to them why we're doing it, why we think it's better for the residents of Niagara Falls, and maybe you could address that.
Yes. Myself and our manager of aquatics and seniors, Hanya Goforth, we have met with the two key volunteers on 2 separate occasions to talk to them about this as a possibility. We have also shared emails, phone calls. Hanya, of course, as being the liaison with this group, has worked closer with them, but we have had communications with the group.
Okay, Councillor? Yes, CA was just going to comment if we could. Okay.
You can have communications with somebody where you're telling them what's going to happen or asking them for dialogue. It's two different things. I will say everything that we were just told is absolutely contrary to the email that Councillor Morocco and I received. And I'm not dismissing Ms. Moldenhauer. I'm only going off the email that came to us. They don't feel like they were listened to. They don't feel like they were engaged. They feel like they've been said, here's the door, don't knock you on the way out. That's verbatim. So these are volunteers. I'm sorry, you can communicate, but if you're communicating and dictating, that's two totally different things, and they do not feel they've been communicated.
Well, it's definitely unfortunate that we're having this discussion here now, but CAO is I'm just going to ask him if he could comment.
And just to that point, Mr. Mayor, you're absolutely right, it is, and my response back to them was, why did you not contact us before? And I can read it straight to you. It says, city staff asked us not to. And I emailed back and said, who specifically asked you not to? City staff. That's all I can go on.
Well, first of all, tonight, through you, Mr. Mayor, was not the time for that, because if you saw the slide, it said that there's a review being undertaken. There'll be another report coming forward. Tonight, unfortunately, the email came now, but the idea tonight was to introduce the subject. This is an overview of the budget, and we'll be coming back with more detail. You have to remember that this swimming program is a fee-for-service. It's not a volunteer. It's a fee-for-service arrangement. And this council has challenged us to go back and look at all our fee-for-service agreements. And in fairness to the staff, that's exactly what they've done. They've gone back and looked at this as a program where we were paying out a little over $12,000 on a fee-for-service arrangement for these individuals to run that swimming program for us. The staff is looking at ways to reduce our costs. They're saying they have an idea where we may be able to save up to $10,000 by delivering this service differently. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact that this isn't purely a volunteer situation. It truly, we've identified it as a fee-for-service arrangement. It's been on your fee-for-service list for the last 2 or 3 years. And what you've said to us last year was go back and work out arrangements on all these fee-for-service agreements. What are we getting? What value are we getting for this? So each of the staff have done that. And the staff has come back and said, hey, we've got an idea here. We have a swimming program. All of the guards are our guards. We already have our own coordinators. Maybe there's a way we can do this differently. I know we've been doing it for 20 years, but maybe there's a way we can do it differently. So that's how this has been approached. And we'll be having more detail in a report coming forward on it. But it's unfortunate it kind of got delivered this way because you haven't had the opportunity to see all the other information from our side either. So we'll have a report back for you on this.
Okay. Carry on.
All right. We plan to continue and implement the new Gale Center facility and ice maintenance standards. We have finalized our facility cleaning manual. We also have established daily work orders with the supervisors following up on that as well. We will be continuing to market the Niagara Falls History Museum and the Gale Center to attract, of course, more visitors and revenue for the facilities. Continue to build community partnerships and to enhance our community arts and culture profile as well. Issues and funding challenges that are facing us right now. We do have some beautiful new facilities, but we also do have aging facilities. Coordination Center, where we're looking at some projects that we'll be putting forward for the capital budget with facility repairs for that building and for Chippewa Arena as well. We're looking at the maintenance of our new facility, including the implementation of energy efficiency programs, and at maintaining our current level of service with a limited budget and increased expectation of the public.
Okay, are there any questions for Ms. Moldenhauer? Okay, so I guess there's no action at this point. That's just a presentation for information. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now on the agenda, I'm looking for, I've had a request and looking for motion to move forward an item further down the agenda. Councillor Wing?
Yes, I'd like to move forward, please, the Niagara District Airport Commission Agreement memo from the clerk. That's in our communication items. We have 3 commissioners and the airport manager here, and rather than keep them waiting for the transportation budget as well. I'd like to address that now, please.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councillor Wing. Do we have a seconder to move this, the Airport Commission thing forward? Yes, Councillor Thompson. Call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, so we will move this report forward. And Councillor Wing.
Thank you, and I'll actually begin by introducing them. We have once again our Treasurer, Bob White, and Ernie Amadio, who's one of our City of Niagara Falls appointees, and joining us this time as well, we have Commissioner Gary Murphy and our Airport Manager, Len O'Connor. I just want to start by repeating a couple of things that were said during the last portion of the meeting. Councillor Gates said that we should treat our volunteers with respect and say thank you, thank you, thank you, and I couldn't agree more, especially when you have volunteers accomplishing what these volunteers have been accomplishing. And Councillor Iannone identified that there's communicate versus dictate, and there's telling people how it's going to be or asking them for dialogue. And up till now, we've had some mayors and CAOs from other municipalities trying to tell the Commission how it's going to be. The Commission is coming here and asking for dialogue, and these gentlemen are here to answer any questions that you might have that I can't answer, but also to support what I'm about to say. And I want to first of all put this in perspective. We brought forward an item from the consent agenda. It was a budget amendment for a library capital project. And in that report, it says the Niagara Falls Public Library Board is appointed by Council, just as the Commission is appointed by the three councils. The Board's mandate is to manage the library's operations, just as the Commission's mandate is to manage the airport operations. The Library Board approves its own operating and capital budgets, just as the Commission approves its own. The budgets are presented and approved by City Council annually, just as the Commission does. Last year, you provided the Commission with $94,588, so that's less than $95,000. You provided the Library Board with $3,905,652, so close to $4 million. That's over 40 times more money than you gave the Commission. Now, there's no disrespect intended, but I'm not aware that the Library Board is performing beyond expectations the way the Airport Commission has been. Are we going to appoint our mayor and CAO to a library liaison committee to oversee the library operations and give direction to that board? You know, there's really no difference between them. They have identical responsibilities, identical reporting relationships. But if we are going to do this, then why would you do this for the one to which you give 40 times less money? So that's my first question. Please.
Okay, Mr. CAO? Yeah, I can answer that. First of all, and I'm glad you brought up the library issue tonight, because that's exactly what we've been saying all along. You see the report tonight from the library. There's no disrespect to the library. They had a approved budget, approved by council, approved by their board. But they had a budget item that went over budget, and it went over budget only by $15,000. Our direction that we gave to the chief librarian and our staff was, let's have a report here before council tonight that authorizes that over expenditure of money, and that's exactly what we did. We have a simple report on the consent agenda. It's been approved by council already. It's the end of the business. Relating that to this situation, we had an approved budget by the Airport Commission, approved by all three councils. There was an item that was not included in their budget. The direction we gave to them was come to this council and get it approved, and that's exactly what they did. So it's the exact same situation. We're treating both groups the same way, and I think that report here on the library tonight exemplifies exactly what we've been trying to say about the process and how the process should be working. And that's the direction. When you talk about why, with the differences in the library, there's one significant difference as to why we have an airport liaison committee. It's a joint agreement under the Municipal Act. It's three municipalities where there may be three differing opinions between three different municipalities. That's why there's a joint agreement, and that's why there's an airport liaison committee that represents all 3 municipalities. The reason we don't have that for the library, quite truthfully, if we have an issue with the library, I get on the phone and I call them up and I say, this is what we need. I don't have to go to 2 other municipalities and get consensus. So that's why that airport liaison committee was created, because it's a joint agreement between 3 area municipalities and not one singular municipality.
Actually, I was there when the Airport Liaison Committee was created, and it was the brainchild of our last chairman, who thought it was a good way for the Airport Commission to be able to draw on the municipality's resources. So if we needed some legal advice, instead of using our own lawyers, maybe we could get it pro bono from St. Catherine's lawyer. Maybe there was some capital, some equipment that we could perhaps use. So that was why it was created. I was there then. I was appointed to the commission in 2004. The agreement was created in 2006. I remember the discussion about why, and unfortunately Rich is not here tonight, or he would be able to tell you himself why the Airport Liaison Committee was created. But there's 3 councillors appointed to the commission representing the 3 councils. If there's a need for representation of the municipality's points of view, then that's what we're there for. Then this Airport Liaison Committee is a relatively new thing. The Airport Commission dates back decades. And
Councillor, can we just get on that point?
Well, and I hate to contradict, but the Airport Liaison Committee was formalized in the last agreement. I can tell you from my days in Thorold, when Thorold was still part of the 4-party agreement, there was an informal group that met like that on a regular basis, and I was the CAO in Thorold at the time, and we would quite often meet with the then airport manager at the time to deal with common issues between the 3 municipalities. I don't believe it was formalized until the last agreement, and we could go back and check that, but it did exist in an informal way prior to that, with the 3 municipal administrators getting together with the airport staff at that time and having those same discussions.
Cool.
And maybe if it had continued in that informal way, then we wouldn't have the problems we've had lately with Mayor McMullen trying to micromanage, calling up the airport administrator, calling up the airport manager, demanding minutes before they've been approved, demanding to see the bids in response to RFPs. Why the mayor of St. Catherine's is meddling at that level is really beyond me. But maybe if it had stayed informal, then we wouldn't be in the situation we're in today, where St. Catherine's is trying to get an agreement that's good to 2026 tossed out and replaced with one that gives Mayor McMullen a lot more power than he has at present. But I just have a few more points I want to cover as well. Earlier today, I sent a white paper that our treasurer had on his own put together. We were looking last year even at the fact that moving forward into the future, the current governance model isn't going to be adequate. We're growing way faster than we were expecting, and his suggestion was make the Airport Commission more attractive for captains of industry and business to become members, both those in active employment as well as retirees. But he noted this is less likely to happen if they see themselves reporting to and or directed by municipal staff, and that's one of the problems with changing the role of the liaison committee from give advice to give direction. We've had one of those captains of industry serving you for the past few years. He's one of our appointees from Niagara Falls, and it's largely to him that we owe the Commission's remarkable accomplishments in that time. Unfortunately, he's already given you notice that he will no longer be available to volunteer if the proposed agreement as it is in our bylaws takes effect. And talk about killing the golden goose, really. As one of my Commission colleagues pointed out, and this is something that hadn't dawned on me, the proposed agreement would also place council members on the Commission under the direction of the mayors and CAOs of other municipalities. I don't know how well that would sit with any of you if you were in my shoes, but, you want to give McMullen the power to direct me to do what he thinks we should be doing? I don't know. Is that your intention? We saw a liaison committee meeting called in April last year expressly for the purpose of advancing the interests of a gentleman whose interest Mr. McMullen wants advanced. And he's trying to advance these guys' interests contrary to the planning approvals under which the airport operates. You know, I thought I was there to protect the interests of this municipality, so don't put me under McMullen's thumb. We're being urged, unfortunately by Dean's memo, to hurry up and follow St. Catharines and Niagara on the Lakes lead. St. Catharines Council never even saw the 9-page document they approved. They never even saw it. One of the commissioners who was there at that meeting said, "What happened in St. Catharines on November 26th is nothing short of a scandal. Their council was not allowed to debate the proposed changes. The motion to defer was defeated in a tie vote, 6-6, and they were not even provided with a copy of the 9-page proposed updated agreement. Most importantly, though, they voted on a CAO report which claimed the existing agreement had expired, when in fact it only expires in 2026. It did not even mention this highly controversial change of role at all. In other words, St. Catharines Council passed the proposed agreement without knowing what they voted for. Talk about educated decision-making, and I have to agree. Niagara Falls, Niagara on the Lakes Council voted on our amendment, keeping it as give advice to instead of give direction to the Commission. They had a 3-3 tie, so their motion failed. And one of the Niagara on the Lake councillors criticized the Commission for having spent its resources frivolously. And the reason I want to discuss this here is that it really stuck in the craw of at least one of my Commission colleagues. Yes, we've drawn from the reserves. We drew from the reserves to build a hangar access road to open up a new development area at the airport. We have a goal of becoming financially self-sufficient, and that's one of our ways of working toward it. We covered costs that the region billed us that we hadn't agreed to, and we were negotiating, but the liaison committee got involved, started meddling, and undercut our ability to protect the taxpayers' dollars, or at least the taxpayers of these 3 municipalities. We didn't agree that we should be paying the region things we hadn't agreed to pay. But those 2 items together amounted to $164,000. We also bought a tractor with snowblower and other attachments to replace a 40-year-old snowplow. That thing was early 1970s vintage. And it was also in needed very expensive repairs. So that was another $234,000. You know, we spend that sort of money here on that kind of similar equipment. And this was called frivolous by a Niagara on the Lake councillor. These aren't frivolous expenses. We don't have any other sources of funds other than what we raise ourselves at the airport or get from the council. And the Airport Liaison Committee in November just told us to spend another $100,000 from our reserves. We need to have security screening measures in place before we can begin scheduled commercial passenger services. And this is one of the things that's in our economic action plan. We want to have this start in order to support the Scotiabank Convention Centre. We can't do that unless we have the security screening in place. It's going to be about $100,000. And in the November Airport Liaison Committee meeting, the response was, "Oh, you guys still have $100,000 in your reserves. You go and spend that before you come to us looking for money." Well, we've been told to run the airport as a business, but we're not given the tools to do so. We can't borrow money. All we have is what we generate ourselves there and what we get from the 3 councils. If you count the Niagara Falls and Niagara on the Lake councillors who want to keep the existing wording in the agreement about the Airport Liaison Committee, keeping it as giving advice instead of giving direction, you have 11 councillors in favor of doing so with only 4 nays. And we're not counting St. Catharines because they didn't even know what they were voting on there. I'm advised our council is the only one that actually had a real debate last time. Ours was the only one also that was advised of the need under Transport Canada regulations for there to be a person who meets their definition of an accountable executive. And right now that's the Commission chairman, but if this draft bylaw is passed as is, it's not going to be the Commission chairman anymore. You know, just as Assistant Chief Ross said, there's a legislative requirement for a community control group. Well, there's a legislative requirement for a safety management system and an accountable executive at the head of it. And we who operate under Transport Canada regulations there can't figure out who it would be, only that it would no longer be the commission chair. But we would have 30 days to figure out who that person is, get them to sign a compliance statement and submit it to the designated inspector. And it can't just be a figurehead. It's got to be somebody who's actively involved, who understands the airport safety management philosophy, understands the document, knows who the personnel are. And I don't know if Mayor McMullen's up to that. Maybe he is. But, you know...
Let's get an answer to that,
okay.
Councillor.
Well, let me just start with that end piece, dealing with the accountable executive, because it's my understanding that under those regulations, the first thing you determine, in our case, is the organization controlled by a board of directors, and that's exactly what the Airport Commission is. So then you go to two choices. You can either have a chairman of the board, or I'm not sure if it fits in here, but there's two selections, either the chairman of the board, or it could be a staff person. So in this case, it potentially could be the airport manager. So, I mean, those are two different choices that you have when you follow the accountability flow chart for appointing that. So when you go back to, is a board still in place, and I don't understand how the commission believes that it's not still in place, because I'm going to read right from the agreement tonight, Council, that's in your package. But Section 4 says the control and management of the airport shall be and is thereby entrusted to the commission. I mean, to me, that's very clear that the day-to-day operation is still entrusted with the Airport Commission. That hasn't changed. In fact, that entire article that gives control and management of the airport to the commission has not been changed one bit. There's not been one amendment at all in that entire section. The other section that deals with the Airport Liaison Committee has included the words, instead of being the words advise, has been changed to direct, but it still says that the Airport Liaison Committee shall serve as a liaison between the Commission and keeping their respective councils informed of Commission activities. So that's the role. By changing those couple words in the agreement does not say that we replace the authority of the Commission, because in Article 4, which says the control and management of the airport rests with the Commission, has not changed. So my opinion would be that, quite truthfully, I don't see how the accountable executive part of this equation changes at all, because the control and management of the Commission is still in the hands of a board of directors, which is the Commission appointed by the three councils.
Just before you do, Councillor Ioannoni, to this point.
To you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Wing said, do we really want our representative being dictated to by Mayor McMullen? So my question to you would be, as a member of that advisory committee, would you allow that to even happen? Because as she's doing that, I'm thinking, how does McMullen, who I don't know from Adam, I don't think I've even ever met him, would he have that much more authority than you do in regards to this? Because it would seem to me that the two of you would be the voice of reason in there to say, no, that's not going to happen. Will Mayor McMullen have more authority than you if the wording is changed like that? Because all I hear is Mayor McMullen, Mayor McMullen, Mayor McMullen. So if he's crossed the line that much to micromanage, would the other mayors and CAOs not rein him back in? Like, are you not the check and balance there?
And the answer to that is, that couldn't happen because the liaison committee is a liaison committee. It under itself can give direction. It has no authority unless it comes back to this council. So if Mayor McMullen had an issue, he has to go back to his respective council. The mayor and I are coming back to our respective council. So if we had a discussion over a matter, and again, you know, I'm just trying to think of an example of what would happen, but we had an issue that we gave our direction to the commission to say, look, you've got this issue with the hangar and the fuel situation. We said, just get in front of council and that'll resolve it. And that was our direction. They came to council and that was the end of it. If they had have said, we're not coming to council, we don't think we need to come to council, and if our belief was they needed to, the mayor and I would come back to this council and say, we think we need to get approval for them to do this based on our agreement. We get a legal opinion, and that's what we would do. But Mayor McMullen couldn't dictate to us what he was going to do with his council, because him and his CAO would go back to their respective councils and deal with it there.
Yes, Councilor.
I remember when I first got on council, and Wayne was the mayor, and I remember the highlight being we wanted to get it to be to the point where it had scheduled commercial flights. Now, that's the last meeting was the first time I've heard that there's possibility of bringing scheduled commercial flights in. But 14 years ago, that was the dream. And so I think we're hard-pressed to, and nobody is, but hard-pressed to knock a commission that has brought it to the point where they're almost to the point where they can bring scheduled commercial flights. I want our representative, if we change the wording, to be confident that she has the backing of the mayor and the CAO and council, because they've come a long way. They are doing so much better than they did before. So rather than, she feels like she's being crucified here for some reason. Mayor McMullen seems to be the bad guy in all of this. I just want to make sure that that our council has a checks and balances in place where our representative feels like she has the support of the mayor and the CAO. And I want to know, can Mayor McMullen dictate unilaterally what she's going to do or what any of our appointees are going to do? And your answer was no.
No, we can't. And let me just back up, and I said this the last meeting, and the gentleman in the audience, we've never, ever criticized the business decisions. We've not. And in fact, Councillor Wing, we had a very good meeting when we talked about the commercial enterprise, and there we had a pretty good discussion about utilizing the reserve fund to look at some capital improvements. And the liaison committee said, you know what, that's a really good idea, get it in your budgets. Those budgets will subsequently be presented to this council, and you know, myself and the mayor, we'll be supporting that and talking in support of that as well as Councillor Wing, and that's how we view it working. We've never criticized that. What our point here was that just, let me go back to the example of the library today. This council would be very critical of us as a staff if we were approving an item that went above the amount that you approved in a capital budget, and that's exactly why we had that report here tonight. And it was only $15,000 or whatever. It's not a huge amount, but it's just the proper procedure and the proper flow, and that's how this all got started. And I mean, there may be other issues facing St. Catharines. Those aren't our issues.
And to that point, to me, it has nothing to do with any of that. All it has to do is with the wording and the control. To me, this has become a control issue. I just wanted assurance as a member of council that our rep has the backing of the mayor and the CAO and our appointees. Semantics is, the wording is just semantics. I just want to make sure that he has no weight in dictating what can be done any more than you do. And if you're standing here telling us that in council, I can approve that. I would support that change in wording. But I think we need to tell our rep, we have your back, and as CAO and mayor, you have our back too, and Mayor McMullen doesn't have the authority or the ability to overstep or dictate. He may be trying, and we all try things, and you lose 5 beats 4, but you want to make sure that that's in place.
And I think we've had a good relationship with the commissioners and over the years, and we don't see that changing. You know, I mean, we've got some amendments to the words here. Those really came out of a situation that we just wanted to clarify what the proper procedure was. I don't see the authority clause, which is clause 4 in your agreement, that says the control and management rests with the airport commission. We don't intend on doing that. It says in here we'll meet twice a year. You know, and you know, we already had the one meeting just recently where we talked about the budget, what was going to be coming forward. You know, we gave them some feedback on that. We talked about using capital reserves, and that's what's going to be presented back. So, I mean, I think that's the way it should work. And if this amended wording just clarifies some of those issues, fine. But we don't, you know, we don't view that there's any bigger issue than that. There may be issues in St. Catharines, as I said, but certainly not with us.
I do want to just add too, and I know Councillor Thompson, you want to speak. Number one, as the CAO mentioned, the current situation is this is simply an advisory committee, and second of all, Mayor McMullen would be one of 6 members of this meeting, and I don't want to paint him as the big bad boogeyman, because he's not. There's a personality issue perhaps going on, but I work well with him, and I work well with Rudy Suter. And I do want to echo what I heard. The current airport management and commission has been outstanding. I think they're taking the airport in a direction that it's never been, in a direction it needs to go, and it's becoming relevant. And I think that our council rep has been fantastic. And yes, we have your back, and we want you to continue to be involved. And just your passion that comes out, that part makes me happy more than anything, because you're very passionate about it. You don't want to let it go, and that's the kind of leadership that we want. But I do want to say, this does not give any leadership, this does not give any authority away to any other mayor or any other council. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. It's a semantics issue, and like I said,
allow that?
Absolutely not. And Councillor Thompson, you had a comment?
Well, let me start off by saying that I'm probably the one who is against the way the operation is of the airport for the past 20 years. It's such a great facility. It's the only real airport we have. Every time Mr. Suter has been here, I've been nothing but complimentary of particularly his involvement as chair and what the commission has accomplished just in the last few years with the changes and the federal monies that have been put in there, which should have been put in years ago. I go back many, many years when I was at the region trying to get the region to accept the responsibility of the airport. And then we'd have somebody from Welland jump up and say, well, we have a landing strip there. We're not going to let that happen. And there's Grimsby. Well, we have a landing strip. The parochialism was basically the same as it is today. Disgusting. Anyway, we have an airport which is a substantial airport on the verge of becoming something very special and unique for economic development and tourism in this region. And I'm standing back and looking at this and saying, why hasn't the region taken this over and given it the dollars, not saying we don't want to pay, we want to pay whatever we have to, but everybody put their money in and really make it the air. That's when you're going to get the flights coming in, and you're going to get that airport really giving us the economic development that we need and deserve as a result. So I'm hoping that, in fact, at the last Regional Tourist Council meeting, there was a request that would they participate in a grant of $12,050 to do a study on trying to get Porter flights coming in on a regular basis. Something we've dreamed of for the past how many years. I made the motion. I said, this is probably the catalyst that's going to make the region realize and think, hey, we have something special here. We're past the grass landing strips that existed, that were our competition in the past, and this is really where we should be going. Now, I voted against the motion last time simply because I think this is really getting blown out of proportion. Advise, direct. We're the council. We're responsible for everything that happens with that commission. It has to come back to us. If we say advise or direct, you said it, semantics. It doesn't really make any difference. But if it comes down to the final strokes, who is responsible? Not the commission, the council. So, no criticism there, doing a great job. Would I say the CAO and the mayor would do something that wouldn't be appropriate for this council? Well, maybe the mayor, but not the CAO. Anyway, I have absolutely no problem with this. I support the people 100% and what they're and Councillor Wing. If she has one concern or one problem, bring it back to this council and we'll deal with it. And do I have complete confidence in you people? And I have worked with Mayor McMullen for many, many years and have had no problem with him with respect to working relationship, and certainly there's enough people there that one person is not going to dictate, and if that becomes a problem, report back to the council, and we'll deal with it at that particular time. But I have no problem. In fact, your responsibility, in my opinion, is you are responsible totally to direct this, and you report back to this council. So I have no problem with the change. And I heard that Niagara on the Lake didn't deal with it, and then I heard they did approve it. Where does it stand with Niagara on the Lake?
Well, yeah, let's put this in context, and I echo Mr. Todd's comments, or the other comments vis-a-vis Councillor Wing. I mean, this council on November 27th had the agreement in front of them. You didn't reject that agreement. You didn't reject that agreement. You didn't talk about governance of the Airport Commission at that time either. Your motion was quite simple, was that you approved that agreement with one wording change. We're talking about one word here, from instead of give direction to advise. And Mr. Todd articulated that night that we would forward that amendment to the agreement to St. Catharines and Niagara on the Lake, but we also said at the time, if they do not go for that amendment, or if they sign the agreement as presented, we're going to be bringing it back. So I have in my hands an agreement that's been signed by the officers of the City of St. Catharines and the officers of the town of Niagara on the Lake, so I bring it forward. Now, what machinations happened at their respective councils isn't for me to comment on, and really those concerns should have been brought to those councils at that time. My understanding is that attempts were made. Those attempts weren't successful. The agreement was approved as is with that original wording of direction, not advised. So that's really all we're dealing with, and I have a responsibility now that that agreement's been signed by the other two partners to bring it forward to you, simple as that. And that's why it's here this evening, and I don't know how you can operate on a different agreement if you're in a partnership. That's why the agreement's here for approval.
Can I continue now?
Yeah, I just wanted, okay. Yeah, just in fairness, because you're going to have the floor mostly, Councillor. Yes, Councillor Gates.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Let's be clear. This is about control. I mean, let's call it what you want. There's a big difference between a word of direction and advice. Let's be honest here. It's no different than I may do this, I will do this. I mean, one word can change the entire thing. St. Catharines, quite frankly, because I work out of St. Catharines, and to the commissioners that are here, I represent workers at Genair down in Niagara Lake, and I want to compliment you on the work that you've done there. It's a nice place. I think they're doing all the good work, all the things they have to. I agree with Councillor Thompson that really the region should probably take this over. It's a lot easier to get a major carrier like Porter, who has been landing, my understanding. I haven't seen him land, but the guys that are working at Genera tell me Porter is landing there and checking out the facility, so obviously that's a good sign. But St. Catharines, it's been a different issue than it has here. I want to compliment our council. 2 weeks ago, we had an open debate. Whether you agree or disagree with the issue, we had an open debate. We allowed all our councillors to speak. We allowed the commissioners to speak. I think that's the way this issue should have been handled. It was handled differently in St. Catharines. It was, and to the fact that their MP, Rick Dykstra, got involved with it, which really did make a lot of sense when I read today that Rick Dykstra wants to meet with the mayor of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and he wants to meet with our mayor, Jim Diodati, yet he's not the MP for Niagara-on-the-Lake or for Niagara Falls. So if it's an issue, you would think that Rob Nicholson, our MP, would be involved meeting with those two locations. So it is a different issue in St. Catharines, and I'm trying to be as honest as I can here. I think it may be a little more about control in St. Catharines than it is in Niagara Falls. But I can tell you that one thing I always respect is passion. And you can agree or disagree with a councillor, that's not a problem, but I think Janice's passion is why I think she's getting the support of the rest of the council here. I believe that we have to take that on face value, that Councillor Wing, if it gets to a point where you need support from this council and Jim needs support on an issue, I'm sure you're going to get it. But you can't not say the word that we're talking about is a big word. It's not a, I call them weasel words in my day job. It's not a weasel word. It's a very clear word on exactly what the direction you'll be given. So I just wanted to say that. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor White?
Thank you. I'll start with why MP Dykstra is involved. He has been a very, very good friend to the airport. He pushed pretty hard to help us get that $12 million in infrastructure funding, and he'd actually been working behind the scenes even before Rudy came along as our commission chair. So he's been a really good friend to the airport. He's done a lot for it, and I think he wants to see us be able to capitalize on the investments that he worked so hard for us to get. I think that's what he's concerned about, is that things are going to get stalled. And I really appreciate the members of council having my back. I'm trying to have the airport staff back. It's not just semantics. St. Catharines has a very different interpretation of what's in front of you than we do here. And the staff are already being hounded, and it will only get worse. You know, even the commission, we're so frustrated. I mean, I've had discussions with these guys over the phone lately, and we're all so frustrated. We want to be working on bringing order in, and there's another one in the works too. I can't talk about it, but we want to focus on the work that needs to be done. Instead, we're focusing on this stupid control issue, and that's exactly what it is. We want our direction to come from the council. And just as with every other board and committee you appoint members of council to, that is our role. That is my role, is to report back to you. And if you want me to start reporting back to you, I will. I mean, that's not, you know, if it's good enough for the library board to have Councillor Iannone there as the liaison and report back, then why isn't it good enough for the commission to have me there to report back? I mean, communication's becoming one of my specialties there, you know, publishing the newsletter, running the social media pages. I mean, I have no problem reporting verbally, you know, and writing, whatever. So, you know, that shouldn't be an issue. You don't need a liaison committee for that. You don't, you know, that's my role. And this wouldn't even be a liaison committee. It would be the mayors and 3 AOs of the 3 municipalities. No role for any commissioners there. You know, how is that a liaison committee? Who are they liaising with? Themselves? You know, there's an alternative we'll talk about slightly later. It's in the white paper that you were given. But when I was a kid, I'd want to do something which my dad would think is very frightening. He'd say, you know, just because your friends jumped over the falls, you know, would you do so? And that's the same sort of thing. Just because your friends did something irrational, like, do we have to do that here? If you want more control, well, you're giving it away. Because right now you've got a clean, simple line of control. You don't like what we're doing? Remove us. Replace us with people that you think you will have more control over. There's a very direct, simple, clean line of control right now. You appoint the commissioners. The other 2 municipalities appoint commissioners. You have the control directly over us. You want accountability? Well, we are accountable to you and the other 2 councils. And I've just said, if you want more reporting, then I can give that to you. What you should be looking for accountability from is the liaison committee. You know, they've got the agreement, which is in effect says the liaison committee shall meet at least twice a year. Now, shall is imperative. It's like a legal obligation to do so. There were 2 calendar years in which the liaison committee didn't meet at all. And the only reason it met once in 2011 was because Rudy pushed for a meeting. So if you want accountability, like, look there. You know, this whole thing is absolutely crazy. The commission's pulled rabbits out of hats and brought in $12 million worth of federal and provincial and regional dollars to upgrade infrastructure that was in imminent danger of failing, and upgrading what was meant to be a temporary terminal building when it was built in the 60s. If we hadn't done that, those monies would have had to come from Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, and Niagara on the Lake, or the airport would have had to have closed. You know, we're doing an awful lot on very little there. And my final point is change. We want to collaborate. We want to work with the councils and come up with whatever changes you think are needed, but in a measured, rational way. We're on the verge, as you've all recognized already, of taking some more big leaps forward, and this council is on record as wanting the region to take over, which is the same conclusion the Commission came to on its own accord. We're going to need more infrastructure rehabilitation in the next 10 years, and as Kathy Moldenhauer said, we have some beautiful facilities and we also have some aging facilities. It's the same thing at the airport. We've got some beautiful new terminal buildings, some nicely revamped runways, but we've also got some other stuff that's rapidly aging, and within the next 10 years it's going to need to be rehabilitated. We need more infrastructure investment in the near future if we're going to start capitalizing on those investments we've already made. Where's the money going to come from? Right now there's no provision in the agreement for these infrastructure dollars to come from anywhere. They're going to have to come from these 3 municipalities unless the region takes over. And that's what we are looking at. We want this to be a regional facility as well. So I actually was, I don't know, at this point I was going to make a motion to receive and file the report in bylaw, and follow up with a second motion directing our staff to work with the region, the Commission, the other 2 municipalities, and come up with a more appropriate model for the future. One that will ensure that the infrastructure needs don't fall on us in Niagara on the Lake and St. Catharines. But I think what I'll do instead is I'll move the bylaw with the change we made last year, which is striking the word direction and changing it to advice, which is exactly what town... Yes, we can. Why can't we? That will be our bylaw.
How can you have a partnership where 2 people are operating under one agreement and the other one's operating on the other one?
Under the agreement that we have right now, which is in effect until 2026, it can be changed if all 3 agree to a new one. If all 3 do not, then the current agreement continues. We have an agreement which goes to 2026. It has not expired. There is nothing wrong with it. If we don't agree, then it continues. So maybe my motion then is that we receive and file the report in the attached bylaw.
Okay, we do have a motion. Now, the only concern or the challenge with the other old agreement is that it still has Thorold in it too, obviously, which isn't accurate because they're no longer a partner.
There's a provision in that agreement for any of the municipalities to withdraw by giving 1 year's notice, and that's exactly what unfolded was Thorold when it got into some very bad budget difficulties, gave the 1 year's notice and withdrew. But that agreement that's in place now has that built in, and it just all unfolded as intended. The agreement itself is good until 2026. So if we do nothing, we have an agreement.
Okay, so there's currently a motion. Yes, Councillor Norman?
I'm not seconding our motion. You might have an agreement, but then you don't have a working relationship with the other 2 municipalities. In the end, we vote here. If you have a motion on the floor and 5 beats for you, you can go home kick that your motion didn't go through, but your motion didn't go through. You have 2 municipalities outvoting 1 municipality. You're 5 beats for you, 2 beats 1. If her motion doesn't get seconded, I'm going to move that we move the recommendation and we join in that agreement, and we count on the 2 of you to have our representatives back. And I quite frankly think you've told us you're going to do it. She better have trust that you're going to do it also. It doesn't demean the Commission. We know the work they've done, but for goodness sakes, we're already cutting our throats with the other 2 municipalities we're supposed to be partnering with by not agreeing to this.
Yes, Councillor Wynn.
Unfortunately, St. Catharines has already cut its own throat. We have a mayor there who phones our manager, phones our administrator, demands things that the Commission hasn't seen. He bypasses not only the Commission, but the Airport Liaison Committee.
Point of order.
Yes, Councillor.
We aren't debating McMullen. I don't care what McMullen does. His municipality has to take care of McMullen. He is not our responsibility. That is something that the Commission can give to the Advisory Committee or the Directive Committee, and you guys deal with it amongst yourselves. That is not this Council's job. Those are issues they have to deal with on their own. That does not belong in this Council chamber.
Councillor Thompson said earlier that if I have a problem to report, I should bring it to this Council and report it. I'm doing that right now. I am reporting that we have a problem with our airport management being harassed by somebody who will take the word give direction and run with it and keep us, not just the manager, but the commission from getting anything done. It's one word. We can pass the agreement with that one word change so he doesn't have that power he's after, and hopefully we can get back to the real business that we want to get back to. But we also have a white paper from one of our commission members suggesting that we look at constituting the liaison committee differently. He said, take the CAOs off it. Like, why are you giving staff voting powers anyhow? Put the council members who are also commissioners on there as well. Then you actually have liaison. I mean, if you're going to have a liaison committee, make it a true liaison committee. Right now, it's just liaising with itself. You know, we don't have, just because this is in front of us doesn't mean we have to rush and pass it the way it is. We can come out with something better if we decide to take some time and review it and study it and find the best way to move forward. And it doesn't have to be the region right away, although I'm told that their Public Works Committee recently voted to move ahead with a governance study for the airport. I mean, we should do something in conjunction with that, but in the meantime, let's look at a better constitution for the Airport Liaison Committee so that if it is going to continue, it's the best we can make it, and it's actually the Liaison Committee.
Okay, so we have a motion to receive and file by Councillor Wing. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Okay. I'll ask one more time. Is there a seconder for that motion? Okay, that motion fails. Do we have a vote? There's a motion by Councillor Iannoni to move the recommendation. Second by Councillor Thompson. Is there any discussion to? Yes, Councillor?
Just, we're talking about direction. When you talk about direction to the committee, the airport liaison committee, that doesn't mean one person has the authority to direct anybody at the airport. He would have to have the backing of the people on the liaison committee. That's right. Am I right? That's right.
Yeah. No more than a councillor can give direction to staff. As a council, we give direction. We can try. Yes, we can try, but as a council, we have direction. But individually, we don't have any. Councillor Wing.
I would suggest that you hear from either one of the commissioners or the airport manager about the impacts, especially on the accountable executive. I know Mr. Todd disagrees with the assessment, but I think our airport manager has a different assessment of the impacts this would have. And he can also tell you about what's going on.
Yes, Mr. Clerk?
Well, with all due respect, that's not what's on the agenda tonight. What's on the agenda is the agreement. At the last meeting, if you had been successful in getting council to pass a motion saying, let's go back to square one on the agreement, that's one thing, and then it would have been your responsibility to get similar motions passed in the other municipalities. All that council's motion was at the last meeting was to recommend the change of that one word, and that one word change recommendation was forwarded to the other two municipalities. They didn't act on it, so we have the agreement as recommended.
Okay, I'm going to call the vote.
Recorded.
Okay, recorded vote.
Councillor Wing?
Opposed.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Iannoni?
Yes.
Councillor Morocco?
Yes.
Councillor Mays?
Yes.
Councillor Carriel?
Yes.
Councillor Gates?
Yes.
Councillor Pietrangelo is absent. Mayor Diodati?
4.
Okay, passed.
Gentlemen, we appreciate you being here. Thank you. And understand that we think you're doing an outstanding job. This is a debate about a word, not about you. You're doing a great job. Thank you. Okay, I would look for a motion. We do have our friends here from the Yellow Shirt Brigade and their bright yellow no shirts, including Joy Russell, that we can move this forward. Could I get a motion to move item 2 on communications forward? A move by Councillor Thompson. Can I get a seconder to move them forward to speak? Councillor Maves. All those in favor? Okay, opposed? All right, Ms. Russell, did you want to, I know you've got a request here. Is there anything, did you want to come to the mic first? And okay, yeah, please, come to the mic.
Okay.
Got to kind of come around and...
I wrote down what I wanted to say because I was afraid if I tried to just do it, I'd start rambling on and you'd never shut me up. This way it's printed.
That never happens around here.
Okay, I'm going to start out by letting you know who we are for those who don't know who we are. The Yellow Shirt Brigade has been doing all we can in the past 4 years to help the residents of Fort Erie, Fort Colborne, and then moved into Niagara, Welland, and the rest of the area to see if we couldn't help to get equal, accessible health care as promised to all people living in Canada. We're run by a core group of 7 dedicated people who make the decisions regarding meetings, trips to Queen's Park, demonstrations and events, and then notify the rest of those who wear yellow and stand with us at the events and let them know what's happening so that we're all on the same page. I already skipped where I was going. It's not easy for many to show up because of age, health, personal issues, or employment, but they do what they can. The petition being discussed tonight was a core group decision and agreed upon by all. We fought with all we had available to us and reached beyond by our letter writing, town hall meetings, YouTube videos, paid ads on CHCH, trips to Queen's Park, and parades or marches. Our community showed the will to fight, but as the years moved on and it looked like a losing battle, their commitment started to wane and enthusiasm was missing. The Yellow Shirts did not quit, and we're still fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. The changes in the HIP called for, are already taking place, and now we have a major decision to make. Do we continue to sit back and accept defeat, or do we fight now for a new hospital, as promised in Supervisor Kevin Smith's report to the Minister of Health? A new, fully serviced, modern hospital built on the Queen Elizabeth Highway at Lions Creek Road that is easily accessible by ambulances, the general public, and tourists. I come here tonight to ask the City of Niagara Falls, through the Niagara Falls Council, to stand with us by signing the petition to have the proposed new hospital built on Lions Creek Road and the Queen Elizabeth Highway, to have one of the 2 urgent care centers built in Fort Erie, and to have the services returned to the new hospital as stated in the report. We also request that the obstetrical and pediatric services remain in Welland and Niagara Falls until the new facility is opened. If the Niagara Falls Council turns down this petition, it'll give a picture to the Minister of Health that we're not a unified front, and we will lose our chance to move ahead. But we have to show her that we are a unified front, and that we are, and we do care about the health care. Everyone in Fort Erie and Niagara Falls can reach the QEW, as we all call it. It's always been a major traveled highway between Toronto and Niagara and leads to and from the Peace Bridge, which is one of the major ports of entry to the United States. I don't have to tell you this one, but Niagara Falls has a population of 82,000 residents, plus thousands of year-round tourists, as it is a world-renowned tourist area, and is another major gateway to the United States. Fort Erie has 30,000 residents, and although we've been having tough times by government closures of the racetrack and slots, it is still a tourist area, and our numbers grow accordingly. Leaving a densely population, or a populated area, of over 110,000 without a hospital is ludicrous, and we have to speak up and be heard or lose our chance for our health care. We must all work with the new NHS, as only working together will bring it all together for our communities, our families, and our lives. Mayor Diodati and Council, would you stand with us so that as a united community we openly ask the Minister of Health for a new hospital that will not only give us our lost hospital access, but will help bring new medical specialists, better health care, and new trust to Niagara? Health Healthcare has changed, not only in Niagara, but across the country, and we have to change and work with it. Gone are the days when a woman delivered a baby and stayed in the hospital for a week, or a person having their gallbladder removed stayed a week or more. Some women now leave the hospital hours after delivery, and gallbladders are done as day surgery. Most of our family doctors no longer make house calls, and if you need to see a doctor, you can go to Walmart to the walk-in clinic. Yes, healthcare has changed, and we have to work together to make it come together for everyone. Your loved ones, your grandchildren, your neighbors, and yourself. We may have lost the first battle when they closed the hospitals and downgraded, but we can't lose this one. 4 70-year-old plus ladies delivered about 1,000 petitions in the Fort Erie and surrounding communities. But we can't deliver to all of Niagara Falls. It's impossible. We just can't do it. We need your help. Our ad in the Niagara Falls paper, in the review, asking for help was answered by one gentleman who picked up petitions and took them to stores and restaurants here in Niagara Falls. Yesterday he came to my house with him and said people are excited and ready to sign. If 1 out of 82,000 can do that, imagine what many can do. We thank him and we thank you. I do have a petition if you'd like to sign it.
All right, thank you. And just before we get to that, I've got Councillor Thompson that would like to comment. Joy?
Well, first of all, thank you for being here, and congratulations on all the work you've done. And in spite of all the work and effort that you've put in, all of you, it's very sad to see what has happened to Fort Erie through the decisions of the provincial government. It truly is unbelievable that one municipality can be treated that unfairly in this province. I truly feel sorry for the residents there, not only for their hospital, but for the racetrack, for the slot machines, for the job loss, which is affecting other industry also. Anyway, I got a call from Mrs. Russell and just said, how can we get this out? I said, bring it to council. All of the comments that she's made have been made by everybody around the table at one time or another. Get the hospital going, your efforts to get it on Lions Creek, supported certainly by Fort Erie, keeping the obstetrics and gynecology in the existing hospitals until the new hospital is there. Everything that we've been saying is exactly how she's put, and I certainly support Fort Erie in at least having an urgent care center there with all the devastation and the loss that they've experienced there. And what I did say, the council will support it, sign it, and we'll send it out to our libraries, the Gale Center, all our existing facilities, and assist them that way in getting people to sign the petition. So I would make the motion that we support them by doing that, and that we all get the opportunity to sign that personally. So if you'll pass that around, we'll sign it, and I make the motion, and I'm sure it'll pass.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Wing, that this council support, endorse, and promote the petition throughout all of our city facilities. And further to that, Councillor Thompson, did you want to add through our website?
Yes,
we do have a big, through our social media, we do have
any way that you can circulate it through.
So through all ways and means possible in our control. So we have that motion, Councillor Iannoni.
And I think this is such good timing, because if you read the newspaper on the new baby of Niagara Falls, the first New Year's Eve baby of Niagara Falls, the review, it was a nice article, beautiful picture of the baby, but it highlighted that this very well may be one of the last babies born in Niagara Falls, as Matt Child is due to close in March. So this is timely, and we definitely need to get this out there.
Excellent. Councillor Gates?
Yeah, first of all, I've had the privilege of meeting both these young ladies over the course of the last number of years, including supporting rallies at the Fort Erie Hospital, including you supporting the rally that we had over here under the CDEF, and I've gone to Queen's Park a number of times. So I understand the importance of the work that you've done, your group's done, but having said that, I think we have to be extremely careful on what we're doing here. I've taken a look at your petition, and talks about supporting the report, which really is nothing more than the implement of the HIP, which is a concern. And I spent a great deal of time till the wee hours of the morning last night going over the report. And I have a number of concerns with the report on what I think is our real immediate battle. And our real immediate battle, quite frankly, isn't the hospital. Our real immediate battle, because the hospital may or may not get built, but it might be 6 years down the road, it might be 8 years, it might be 10, it may be 20. So I have some concerns. So when I was going through the report, they talked about, and this is probably to Councillor Iannone's point, it talks about obviously taking the services out of Welland and taking them out of Niagara Falls. And I have a lot of concerns with that. So when I went through the report, it says that both these programs to the new purpose-built facility in the south, they're saying in the report that they may come back to the south. But again, I'm strong on words, as I said earlier in this council meeting, but the two words here are if approved. So in other words, there's no guarantee if we build another hospital anywhere in the Niagara region that those services are coming back. And that's a concern for me. And I took a look at other pages, and I got a number of pages here, so I apologize for taking a while to get to them. Also on page 37 of the report, when I was taking a look at it, and let me get to it, please, it talked again about the type of services that may come to the south, the type of services that may come to the new South Hospital, wherever it is, and obviously we all want it to be in Niagara Falls. It doesn't mention that those services are coming back to the South Hospital, but they are mentioned that they're going to stay in the North Healthcare. This is in his report. It's on page 37 of his report. And then when I take a look at page from 46 to 48, it also acknowledges that the new South Hospital will be more centrally located. I have no idea what that means, but again, that's in his report. So I had some concerns about his report. I think we have two issues here, quite frankly. I take a look at Fort Erie. You know, if they lose the services out of Niagara Falls, because that's where the young people out of Fort Erie are going, the young families, because of the hard-hit Fort Erie that Councillor Thompson talked about on some of the things that have happened in Fort Erie, it's a low-income area. Young families, a lot of them are having trouble even making their car payments, quite frankly. So to look at the hospital being built in, you know, again, like I said, 6, 8, 10, 20 years, what it is, you're looking at the Fort Erie people that are going to have babies over the next 6, 8, 10 years. They're looking at driving to St. Catharines, the north end of St. Catharines, on a good day, because I've done it recently, 57 minutes. That's in good weather, and that's not at 5 o'clock. I don't know if you've ever gone down that 4th Avenue around 5 o'clock. It's a horror show. I've said here that on the maternity issue, it makes absolutely no sense to take the services out of Niagara Falls, when we're the honeymoon capital of the world, where people come to make babies, quite frankly, on their honeymoon, and we're not even going to be delivering babies in Niagara Falls. It makes absolutely no sense. Our new birth certificates for the residents in Niagara Falls, quite frankly, will probably be in the cabs. They'll say birth certificate is a QAW as they're driving from Fort Erie to St. Catharines. So I think we've got some real issues here, and I want to talk about who is supporting, because I'm going to talk, because I see some people are trying to figure this out, but the real concern right now for us, because by March 24th, is these services are leaving Niagara Falls. They're leaving Welland. That's our immediate fight with the NHS. And I don't know where Jim's on with that, because I know Jim talks to, Mayor Diodati talks to him all the time. But That's our real fight. When I take a look at who is supporting the recommendations to move out of our community, here's what I'm going to ask you. Are the doctors saying it? No. Doctors aren't telling us that, yes, this is good. Certainly the community isn't saying it. The residents aren't saying it. And I know around this council table, long before I got on this council, we have not, this council before I got here was saying, no way, we want those services to leave. So it makes absolutely no sense to me so that they can financially support a P3 hospital in St. Catharines. So I like to divide the two issues up. And what I think we should be doing is saying, okay, we're going to fight for the hospital with our partners in Fort Erie. Because I've been there. I know the hardships that you've been going through. But let's talk about the immediate issue. The immediate issue is upon us. We don't have to worry about the Liberal government, quite frankly, of making the decision about the hospital in the next 3 months. They're not even at work. So we don't have to worry about that. What we have to do is find a way to convince them not to take the services out. Because if the services leave, they're not coming back for a long, long time. And I think that's what our original fight should be. The hospital and the petition, I think, is one issue, but I think the services are another issue, not only for us, but also for Welland and Fort Erie, because it's the young people that are going to have to drive all the way to St. Catharines, maybe in a crisis when they're having a baby in a cab, because they just they don't have money for cars and stuff. So I think, and I'd like to hear from my fellow councillors on this, I think that should be our #1 issue. The petition's fine. You know, I'm not going to support all those recommendations. I'm not going to, because I think I've given you some examples where the words that are in there are very tough for me to sign my name to, because it says if approved, and that always concerns me. I read language a lot, and that one really concerned me when I saw that at about 1 o'clock last night. So I think we should have some dialogue with the yellow shirts as partners and say, what do we need the most for Fort Erie today, for Niagara Falls today, for Welland today, and that's to keep the services right here in our communities. And then we'll fight the battle on the hospital at a later time. I think that's a smarter fight for us today. And that's kind of, you know, when I look at all this stuff, because, you know, I love you guys to death, as you know, you guys do a great job. You've been front and center for the last 4 years. Unbelievable job that the yellow shirts have done. But I think we're going to have a mixed message here, and the timing is critical. We've got exactly two months, maybe just over 2 months, to stop those services leaving our community. And I think that should be the focus of this council. It should be the focus of Welland, our partners in Welland and their council, and I think it should be the focus of Fort Erie, because it's the young moms that are going to have to drive 55 to 57 minutes to an hour or longer in a snowstorm to get to St. Catharines. So that's kind of where I am, and I appreciate the time on raising those issues.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. And just to remind everyone, we do have a motion on the floor. Councillor Thompson?
I'm speaking to the motion.
Pardon me?
I'm speaking to the motion.
No, just I'm reminding everyone that we have one to vote on. Councillor Thompson and Morocco.
I have no argument with what I heard. In fact, after Mrs. Russell called me, I have had several conversations with the clerk, because in the petition it basically says it supports the HIP program. We certainly don't do that. The two aspects, I asked the clerk if he could take the petition and craft it in such a way that it concentrates on obstetrics and pediatrics, staying where they are, and also getting on with the hospital. The two major points, and Mr. Irafita can indicate that we had that conversation, and that's what we'd like to do, because I don't think anybody's going to sign their name to something that says they support the HIP program, because we've all been very vocal about that from day one. So hopefully Mr. Irafita and Mrs. Russell can get together and be satisfied with the exact wording, and my resolution covers that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ms. Russell.
Okay, we're really caught up on the HIP program, and when I spoke just now, I mentioned the HIP program. It has taken place. This is a known fact. It's done. All these services are going to be changed. Our hospitals are going to be ended, and we just have to move ahead. The HIP program Dr. Kitt told me at the end of the inquest that the HIP program will go through. This was a year ago when we had that. And it has nothing to do with the petition. The petition does not say HIP program anywhere in it. Our petition states that as far as the OB and GYN patients, that they should stay here. But we didn't write that report. That report was written by Supervisor Kevin Smith. We cannot change something that he put in his report. Nobody can change somebody else's report. We can request, and we can firmly request, but we cannot change and make somebody change what they wrote. That is already in plan, it's in progress, and it's now up to the Minister of Health to decide change or no change. So the petition, as such, we can't change it, because if we do, the 2,000, with almost 2,000 people that have already signed, then it's null and void. So no, we have to keep the petition like it is and go with it. We can fight then to get the pediatrics and the OB here, but we can't change Kevin Smith's report. Only Kevin Smith can change that. We can only change what's happening here in our area.
Okay, we've got Councillor Morocco, Iannoni, then Gates.
Yes, Your Worship, I know that Councillor Gates brings some good points across, and I also want to say, if anything, I'm going to support is the fact that we would love to have a hospital here in Niagara located at Lions Creek Road, so I would fully support that. I'm not sure that I would support anything other than that when it comes to service and that. I think that's something that's down the road. And I'm not here also to create or change anyone's petition. I think that's for the people that bring it forward to us. And I have to say, good for them that they've got that many numbers already, and it would be not very respectful to take that petition and change it, and then it becomes null and void. So it's a motion. If their petition basically is to support having a hospital here, located in Niagara, and nothing else to do with the HIP, as this lady has already said, it's done. We can't really change that. But if there's changes to the services here, the real point actually lies with our MPP, Kim Crater. That's where the voice has to be, and I think this is what they're just trying to create these petitions to say, yeah, we want the hospital, sure we want a hospital here. I'm fully supporting that, and I think that message has to go to our MPP, Kim Crater. That's where the power lies. We're just going to support and be a voice.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Iannoni.
Well, I think us staying out of this, that vote is safe. We put our nose into a provincial issue, and we've got ourselves in there neck deep. This is basically what the petition asks, and it's in our report. The petition asks us to approve Kevin Smith's proposal of a South Niagara hospital, that the hospital be built at a Niagara Falls location, that we ensure obstetrical and pediatric services remain until the new facility opens. We all know my feelings on that, when the mythical hospital opens. And one of the recommended urgent centers be built in Fort Erie. We have resolution after resolution after resolution that has gone to the province that says exactly that. This petition is just the same. I will happily sign it. And we're not asking for anything other than what we've asked for time and time again by motions of this council.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Frieden?
Yeah, I'll echo that, and I've even talked to or emailed Mrs. Russell about that everything that she's proposed in that petition is exactly resolutions that this council has approved in the past.
Councillor Gates?
Yeah, and I can attest to that because we've raised them here. My concern, and so that everybody understands what it is. We, the Understrong, support Dr. Kevin Smith's plan for the Niagara healthcare system. Okay, that's a part of it. We encourage you to approve the report and accept all recommendations, including the very important thing. Now, I don't think anybody in this council is not talking about we'd like to see the new hospital in Niagara Falls. Not the issue. But the problem that I have when I sign my name to something that says that, and when I take a look at his report, that's an issue for me. The second issue is the hospital will take care of itself, and I guess that's where I'm at. The services are on a timeline. We have 2 months, or we're going to lose those services for a long, long time. And I guess the question becomes, do we want to put our energy into saving the services that I think every citizen in Niagara Falls, in Welland, in Fort Erie want? Or do we put our energies around a petition about the hospital at a later date? And I really have a lot of concern on saying that we're approving or recommending that report that says those services might not even come back to Niagara. They might not come back if approved. And so that's my concern with the petition.
Mr. Arafina?
Council has passed resolutions, your position is well articulated. This petition's not going to make any difference on that. Council's official positions are those resolutions that are in this package that I've drafted and have been signed and have been sent to the province. Whether you decide to sign this petition as an individual is strictly up to you, and I suggest that be your guiding principle on whether you sign it or not. And I think really the motion is that the council supports the Yellow Shirt Brigade and that we distribute these petitions throughout Niagara Falls for the citizens to sign should they wish. I don't see this petition endorsing Dr. Smith's report in total. There's obviously clarifications to that support, and they're already in the petition that Mrs. Russell's prepared, i.e. that obstetrics and pediatrics remain in the municipal hospitals instead of being diverted to the St. Catherine's Hospital.
Are there any other comments?
I'd just like to respond to
Councilor.
I'd just like to respond to those comments, and certainly with the utmost respect. I'm not so sure that we've ever put a recommendation here from this council supporting Dr. Smith on his report. I may be wrong, but I don't think we have ever done that, and that's part of the resolution, so, or part of the petition. But I would like our council, I would like our council to maybe address the fact on what are we going to do for the next 2 months to keep these services in Niagara Falls, which is a real big issue here in this community.
Are there any other comments of council to this? If not, then I'd like to also weigh in and just throw my comments and support behind the petition. And I very much appreciate what Councillor Gates is saying. And it's very frustrating that we are not in charge of what's happening in our own community, that we have to go to a higher body and, you know, beg for mercy, and it's very, very frustrating. But you're right. Well, it's something of a dictatorship and a democracy. But what I do like about the petition, number one, it's focusing on a positive moving forward. And I was in Fort Erie too, in the arena, when you had the big protest, and it's funny how this thing goes full circle, and we were very supportive of
5,000 people.
It was unbelievable to see something like that, and it's still unbelievable, even more so, that the NHS didn't listen. But where are they today? Those people are gone. So that tells you what happens when you don't listen to the people. You're gone. So in this case here, I think it focuses on the positive direction of a new full-service super regional hospital that'll be a center of excellence. And further to that, it states our position that we request that they keep obstetrics and pediatrics remaining in Niagara Falls and Welland until the new facilities open. We can't do any more than ask, because we don't have control over the final decision. So for that reason, I will support this, and I will help to get this out as much as we can, because I think the message is getting out there. At first it was a very muddied message that the region was in disarray and we were going in all different directions, and now the message is we're becoming united. There's still one pocket that hasn't seen its way clear yet. And I said, if you expect unanimity anywhere, it rarely happens. But I would say the vast majority is absolutely supportive and going in the new direction. I've spoken, Mayor, of a lot of the municipalities. I don't want to speak publicly for them, but I'm telling you right now, they're seeing the writing on the wall, and they realize that either we row together or you get thrown overboard, because we need to all be rowing in the same direction, because if you don't, you're going in circles. So I too will support this. So we're going to call a vote now. Can we get the motion repeated again, Mr. Clerk, because I don't remember exactly what it was.
Well, that we meet with Bill Miller. No, sorry. Basically, that council endorse the petition and distribute it throughout city facilities.
Yeah, by all means possible at our within our discretion. Okay, so we have the motion, we'll call the vote, all those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. So, yes, Councillor Gates?
Can I put another motion forward, that you set up a meeting immediately with the NHS on the losing of the services in Niagara Falls?
The
and
NHS or
find out-
Dr. Smith?
Well, probably Dr. Smith might be a start, but certainly find out where it is. According to the document I read, it's March 24th that we'll no longer have those services, so it's not going to give us a lot of time. But I'd like to put a motion forward that you set a meeting up immediately to meet with Dr. Smith and try to convince him to leave those much-needed services right here in Niagara Falls and Welland.
Okay, so we have a motion, moved by Councillor Gates, second by Councillor Wing, that we set up an immediate meeting with Dr. Smith to address the issue of obstetrics and pediatrics. So we'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that too is unanimous. So thank you for that. So we're going to pass that around. We'll get those signed here first, so we can make a symbolic gesture and support, and then we're going to get this throughout the community. And we appreciate you taking the time, seeing the bigger picture, and coming to Niagara Falls, because I think we're going to all benefit together when we're going in the same direction.
We all have to work together or we go nowhere.
100%. I'm going to sign this right now. Everybody signing those on the other end too?
No.
Oh, okay. We're just going to do this first to make sure this gets done before you head out. You know you have all the council signatures, minus one who had an emergency at home. Shit, it's at the hospital. I'm not going to comment.
I have a few that I can leave with you.
Yes, could you? Yeah, and we'll make some more copies.
And I believe you have a copy machine, so you'll be able to more, and we'll come in our box.
Yeah, we're happy to do that. It's supported by this council, so that's great. You can just leave us a couple, we'll be able to make copies, so just a couple is all we need.
And that gentleman that called me.
Hey Joyce, could you grab that?
The
Pardon?
gentleman that called me and came to the house was wonderful. And he was so supportive that we should have a lot like him.
What's his name? You know his name?
He didn't really want to be known. He was doing this out of the goodness of his heart.
Very nice, very nice.
That's what counts. It counts more than the name.
And who's your friend you have with you today?
And this is Marilyn Atto.
Hi Marilyn.
Yeah, she's usually with me. She's a good buddy and a hard worker. And one of the four of us that went around with 1,000 petitions.
All right, Joy, well, thank you very much. On behalf of the city, we thank you for all your efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just enough time for me to get to the washroom. Yes. No. Okay, Mr. Dren, our Director of Transportation, is now going to walk us through TS 2013-02 and all the traffic matters in the city, along with his compadre there, Mr. Brown. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor. What I'm going to do tonight is give you an overview, myself and Mr. Brown, on the parking review that took several months, many months to put together. It's totally done in-house. So what I can do is start off with the agenda. What I'm going to do is go over the history or background and the study objectives, and then Mr. Brown is going to take over for the rest. So what it's going to be is we're going to review the infrastructure, which is really the current condition of the way parking is today. We're going to look at, as part of the review, we looked at comparators, both Canada-wide and locally, to put this together. We're going to outline the proposed program. And then we're going to go over some guiding principles that will help keep us whole from now into the future as a user pay system. Now, to give you some background, the Parking Reserve Fund was established in 1966 and is still in existence today. The intention of the fund is to be self-sustaining, and it's meant to be a true user pay system, which means the general taxpayer is not to contribute to the operational costs or the fund in any way. Any surpluses, reserves generated are to be allocated back to the system to take care of maintenance and rehabilitation of the parking lots, reconstruction, purchase of new lots, etc. And this is the last time a study was done was over 40 years ago. So we took the extensive look at the way we do things. The objectives were mandated by the province through PSAB to look at asset management. As part of the objectives of the study, we wanted to evaluate the current parking operation, look at the infrastructure needs for both on-street and the parking lots. As part of it, we were looking at developing a 10-year infrastructure plan to go along with PSAB and to look at a parking rate stabilization strategy. We also wanted to meet the needs of the businesses and consumers. And by the way, we met with the BIAs that are affected by parking, the parking operation, and they were all on board with and very supportive of this plan. A couple other objectives: we want to remain fiscally responsible, and again, uphold the user pay and be sustainable. So therefore, I'll let Mr. Brown now take us through the parking review.
Thank you, Carl. The infrastructure plan, we've looked at it over the 10-year period, and by applying the asset management, we assessed that 16 of our 18 municipal parking lots will require surface work or total reconstruction for a cost of over $2.4 million. We also have looked at our hardware application for our on-street parking meters and the parking lots, and that will require, with replacement, an additional $1.3 million. Some of the infrastructure challenges we have are the maintenance of these lots as they are exposed to all the elements and the constant use of our customers here. Here's two examples of properties that we are currently looking at for our asset management and development. Lot number 2, found in the downtown BIA, was constructed in 1998. And lot number 14 in the Main Street BIA area, which was constructed in 1996. Both these are sitting approximately between 17 and 24 years old without any serious work being done on them. A prime example of trying to maintain the system and put it back into it, this is lot number 12, also known as Sylvia Place Market, located in the Main Street BIA. It was constructed in 1966. Sylvia Place isn't a paid parking lot, it's a free lot currently at this point, and therefore funds to be redirected into it has not been a priority for us, as the volumes up to this point have been low, and therefore it's now on a lower state of repair. Just to give a good example of the expenditures over the next 10 years broken down by the districts. The downtown, it's estimated that we will require about $1.8 million in repairs and upgrades in that area, and that's really due to the fact that 60% of our municipal parking lots does fall into that area, and their regular use does lead to that need. Main Street BIA, we do estimate about $763,000 for upgrades in municipal lots for on-street equipment. And the Clifton Hill Victoria Center BIA, we estimate about $271,000 over the next 10 years for equipment and any lot maintenance. The Fallsview BIA comes up at about approximately $250,000. Now, if we run the system as we currently have it, and utilize the fund in the direction to apply the asset management and maintain what we feel is an acceptable city structure, we will end up having an accumulated fund deficit as of 2014. So the fund is regularly being depleted, and at this point we would end up having to look for a tax-supported basis, which is not exactly what we want to do. So one of the things we did was we went out and we did a review of what the parking conditions are and what the benchmarks are across Canada. And as you can see, the numbers are considerably higher than what we run here in Niagara Falls, with an average parking rate of $16, an hourly rate of over $5, and with an annual increase for on-street parking of approximately 2%. The average monthly permit rate, could you just go back for a second, Leslie? Thanks. Yeah, the average monthly rate there is $240 a month. Now, I understand you're looking at these numbers, and these numbers are incorporating major metropolitan areas such as Toronto and Calgary and Vancouver. So what we do is we kind of looked at it and said we need to be focused on our community and our regional surroundings. So we did an assessment based on what would apply to us in this community. So here's a comparison on the existing hourly parking rate with ourselves, and broken up into the districts of our city in comparison to St. Catharines and Niagara on the Lake. As you can see, we currently sit below the norm on the cost of parking per hour. So the parking rates that we're proposing is really to keep pace with the needs for our infrastructure and for those of our surrounding municipalities. The 10-year plan identifies the needs for these rate adjustments, and they haven't been increased since 2001. So we're looking at over 10 years with any significant increase. There was a minor one a couple of years back in the tourist area, but we've been pretty stagnant on our numbers at that point. Our on-street parking rates currently that run in St. Catharines and Niagara on the Lake are approximately $1.50 to $2 an hour in the tourist area for Niagara on the Lake. So what we're currently proposing here, and this is a breakdown based on each area's needs. The overall is we're recommending an immediate 25-cent increase to parking rates. That would bring the Main Street and downtown area to $1 an hour, possible to $1.25, and then our tourist district $2 an hour. Once that's implied, that would help get us out of that red zone for the 2014 and 2015 time frame, and then we would look at a smaller adjustment in 2015 to maintain the funds in a positive nature. So we're looking at applying those rates as we just described. If we increased our rates by 25 cents in 2013, and then again the 10-cent increase in 2015, as you can see in a comparison of the other municipalities, we still range either within an acceptable amount or continue to be below what the standards are for the municipalities around us. There is a slight increase in the tourist area for 2015, but again, we are comparing to existing rates for Niagara on the Lake. Another aspect is our monthly parking lot rate comparison. So we've gone ahead and looked at what other municipalities are charging for their municipal lots. Niagara on the Lake isn't incorporated in here because they don't operate any municipal lots. And as you can see, we're well below the averages, and even an increase that will take place up to 2021 puts us within a comparable rate with the other municipalities. With these lots on for the municipal lots, we're recommending a 10-cent increase for the hourly rate. We generally will aim for a lower increase than the on-street. On-street is your immediate prime spot with high demand on turnover, whereas our lots, we like to promote a lower rate of parking with a longer term availability for the public. So it benefits the people who really want to stay a little longer, visit more shops, and so, of course, our rates want to be comparable to that to allow that to be a promoted aspect. This also allows us, our municipal law allows us to provide parking opportunities for businesses that may not be able to do so for their employees. So we do have a lot of surface lots that incorporate that. The monthly lot rates, we're looking at putting an increase of $5 per month and do so every 2 years, and to see if we can basically bring it in line with what we would assume as an adult transit pass. Now this is a 20-year concept, so we won't be as aggressive on that nature, but it really, the idea is that you want to be able to promote public transit. We would reduce our carbon footprint in Niagara Falls, but at this rate, if you can park for what works out to be less than $1 an hour, it's not really promoting any public transit or use of that. So there's sort of a catch-22. So with the applied rates that we're recommending, on approval of that, what we would be able to do is, as this chart shows, the red line is the existing pattern that we are now with no rate changes, and it would maintain to go into a deficit. With the applied changes and the rates change being approved, we would then be able to maintain a static reserve fund that will allow us to implement the upgrades on our lot, make them safe for the public, and still provide that service for the consumer. Reinvesting in our parking here's some examples of us that in applying the principles of the parking reserve fund. In 2010 we reconstructed, in 2000 we reconstructed lot number 10, and it's in fantastic shape. In 2004 we did our tourist area lot number 4. And it was reconstructed, and this lot is actually in high demand and very well lit and suits our purposes quite nicely. And for the guiding principles, we decided we were going to apply a bunch of principles that will allow us to maintain this structure over this period of time. So the principles that we would like to use as a guiding structure to move forward and maintain a non-tax supported structure would be ensure that the municipal parking system operates as self-sustaining operation with no contribution from that tax base. That it would promote our stability and encourage transit ridership through monthly parking rates, and they should at least be the same cost as a monthly transit pass, an adult pass of that. And we, like I was saying, we would like to do that within a 20-year period as we work toward it. In order to meet the needs of a successful transit master plan, parking requirements should not exceed 90% of the parking demand. If it's always available there, no one looks for an alternate option on transportation. We would like to maintain a minimum of $300,000 in a reserve fund, and that would allow us to address any developments and changes in our property, as well as any unexpected items that may come up. For example, changes of the minting of the coins and such. We'd like to contribute to the annual net fund after all debt services, and to a special purpose reserve to maintain and replace our assets. To be financially forecast should be reviewed annually and adjust to meet the public demand of parking and continue to be in line with the rates of the surrounding municipalities. So, as opposed to what we have done now, where we're looking at 12 years without a rate increase, we would review it regularly and say, what are the demands in the area? You know, do they need to go up? Do they need to go down? And how is our sister communities doing? We would consider using a development charge fund for establishing of new parking facilities. BAA's request for free parking would be a lost revenue to that fund, and therefore should be offset by the associated BIA. And an annual review of our parking trends to be implemented for use of better technologies, better service, and provide better customer relations based on being fiscally responsible to do so. Any questions?
Thank you. Councillor Wayne.
Yeah, just on that last point about the BIAs and the request for free parking. I know every December we get a request from the Queen Street BIA that we give free parking as we've done every year for I don't know how many years running. So the staff are suggesting that from now on this should be offset by that BIA. Are we going to write to them and advise them that this is going to be the case from now on?
Some feedback, Carl?
Yes, that's something we would do. Council always has the ability to, December comes along to make decisions. But as a guiding principle for this, the guiding principles are something that have been in place for many years, and really we haven't changed them, we just documented them.
Like the prime directive in Star Trek. Are there other, yes, Councilor Carrier.
Thank you, Worship. When I look at the infrastructure needs the money we have to spend on our parking lots, Carl, I think our increases are light. I think they're light, and I think the comparatives, like in the comparatives with just St. Catharines and Niagara on the Lake, it doesn't give me enough. I'd like to see some other comparatives. I mean, you probably know them, but what about Welland? What about Guelph? What about Hamilton? What about other areas? What about other tourist areas? I don't know what they are. But it seems awful light and modest to me, considering the amount of infrastructure money. We've got a great opportunity to make money on parking. Most of the parking that we have is the most convenient parking when somebody's going to an event or going somewhere, and it's the least expensive. I think that, in order to make this truly user pay, and I think that your $300,000 reserve fund is too light. I think we should have more money in that reserve fund. And I look around at the different parking lots in our area, and I look at what the casino's charging, what some of those other areas are charging. Ours is too cheap.
Any feedback, Carl or Paul?
Part of what we had indicated is that we would come back, or we would monitor this and review it on a yearly basis versus waiting a long time to review it. What we tried to do is present something that was fiscally responsible, that was something that we were going to come back and go up to the BIAs and now say we're going to raise it $1 an hour. So I think what we want to do is just tread slowly. You'll see in the capital works budget, when we bring that forward, that'll show our 10-year plan of what we're trying to do, and that'll probably bring light to the fact of the rates that have been chosen. But again, as we move forward, if we require further adjustments, we'll be back to this council to say, you know what, in 2017 we need another 10 cents or 15 cents. So
I still think you're thinking small cents. I think you're thinking small. I think it could use a bump. It's my personal opinion. I mean, when I look around at our lots and I look at the condition of some of them, I don't think people mind paying if they're in really decent shape. Some of them are in pretty bad shape. And if that's what we want to do, if we want to raise them up nickels and dimes at a time and leave them in the condition they're in, or slowly bring them up to when I look at the private parking lots, the standards of some of them, I guess. But I look at this as an opportunity that's lost. When I look at I always am critical of the transportation system where the buses running around empty. Well, there's a great opportunity to raise some money, and if we have to use it in transit or somewhere else, I think we're missing the boat. We're missing an opportunity on the parking.
Mr. Brown, you had a comment?
Yes, just to answer some of your questions. We are 25 cents an hour lower than what Welland is, and we're only about 40% lower than what Hamilton does in their main districts. A comparison for monthly parking rates for lots, if we look at Brantford, which is a community of the same size, their monthly parking rates for lots is about $45 to $47 a month. So we are considerably lower than all comparable communities. When you get into tourist areas outside of Niagara on the Lake, then the numbers are much higher. You're looking at about $3 an hour.
So, but why do we have to be considerably lower than all those other communities? Why? Why do we need to be lower?
Okay, so we're getting some direction here from council that they'd like to see some. Councillor Iannone?
It's up to us. You asked him. He said, well, this is the slow way we want to go. So we make a motion and say, increase it, and let's generate more revenue and fix our parking lots quicker. I mean, the decision isn't with staff. The decision is with us. And I agree with you.
So maybe we ask staff to come back with a recommendation with maybe an accelerated parking rate plan or something to that effect?
Well, Mr. Brown we can just do it, can't we? I mean,
I know, but
we
we're
know
gonna
how to
pick an
do it.
arbitrary rate, though?
No, not an arbitrary rate, but Mr. Brown just highlighted that we're 40% lower than Hamilton. We're a major tourist destination. If you travel to New York City, you pay for parking. I know when I go to New York with my car, I know what I'm going to pay per day when they put my car on the stackers and raise them up. I don't blink, it's built into my day there. So we are seriously missing the boat in a revenue generator here. I think staff has undershot what maybe they thought we wanted, and we need to give them direction. Look, you can make more money. It's not up to them, it's up to us.
And we can offset the areas with a parking pass or whatever where people have to park at the hospital or for locals. There's things we can do and still generate more money. I mean, I just would like to see it go back and come back to us.
I'll make that a motion that it go back and it come back to us at higher rate.
Okay, motion by Councillor Ioannoni. Councillor Carrier, do you want to second that as well? Yeah. That we ask staff to have another look at the rates.
Well, they've admitted they're very low,
Yeah.
so bring them back moderate.
Okay. And they never know how we're going to react, so I mean, we're saying we're supportive.
Maybe they're surprised.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Councillor Wayne?
Yeah, are we looking at them just for the tourist areas or across the board? Because, Queen Street is already wanting an hour free parking. They want parking relief in December. So having parking being an expensive period is onerous for them. Main Street hasn't had, except for along the street where it's metered. The lots haven't been metered up till now. So this is something new for there. And there's already a problem with the street meters. People park in the funeral home parking lot. So this is one way that area is different from all the others, is there are these big expanses of parking lots for the funeral homes there, and people scoot in there rather than paying for on the street. And I know the funeral home and the funeral home operators complain to our staff about it. They're told, oh, well, you just have to monitor your lot. Well, they're not going to be out there all the time monitoring it. They're policing potential future customers, and it's a real problem. And so introducing rates there is one thing, and it's something the people who patronize it are going to have to get used to, but to jack them up really high is really going to drive people to those parking lots, which means we're not going to get the revenue anyhow, because they're going to be avoiding it by going to the parking lot. So it's a problem. I think for the two areas for which we have CIPs in place, we have to look at them a little differently than we do the ones that are hosting visitors from all kinds of other places.
Good point. Councillor Carrier?
That's a happy amendment to the motion that staff look at it and separate the CIPs and have dialogue with the BIA staff.
Okay. Councillor Carrier?
I just suggested we send it back to staff. They can take that into consideration. But when you look at the downtown infrastructure that we've just put in and the one at Main and Ferry, if you're going to maintain that, you can't expect to park there for nothing and have that maintained in that pristine landscape condition forever. I mean, so somehow we got to put the money back in the pot to keep that looking like that. So I would take direction from staff, but maybe it's a parking pass for the locals or something so that they can get a reasonable pass, but still have the rates where they should be, so that the residents or the people who have to go down there, they can make a deal or get a deal with a parking pass or something. But the rates should be the rates, and I don't think that there should be too many areas exempt, especially the ones that look like that. I think everyone would like to have their parking areas look like that. They should help generate the money to make the rest of the city look like that.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor.
And to that point, maybe we need to generate the money. I mean, the downtown has a beautiful downtown, but it's now getting more costly to plow and do winter maintenance. So you can't have both. I mean, they picked the model that they wanted downtown. They picked the decorations they wanted downtown with the bollards. If it's an extra cost, should it come out of our... No. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And, Councillor?
Just to comment on, I thought that too, Councillor, but I asked some people that question, and I heard that was our staff that picked that model.
Just for clarification, I sat on that beautification committee with the downtown BIA members. Numerous models were brought to us. It was voted on by the downtown BIA members and brought to the rest of the board by the downtown BIA members. The downtown board, the beautification committee had full authority to change what was there and what wasn't, and they didn't. No, they approved everything that was on that street. I sat at every meeting.
I have a feeling they didn't think it through to the winter. I don't think that was on anybody's mind. Councillor Wing?
And as far as the big lot at Main Street, Sylvia Place, I mean, we saw a picture of what condition it's in. It's, you know, it's chicken or egg, but are we going to pave it first before we begin charging so that there's something that people will be willing to pay for? Or are we going to just start charging and for it in the condition it's in? Because I'm not sure how popular that's going to be. I mean, I can just see already people being disgusted, you know, being expected to pay to park in a lot that's in that shape. I don't know if you've been down there recently, but it's bad.
Mr. Dren?
Just in response to that, we are going to charge, but it's going to be at a lesser rate. I mean, we have to start, and it was based on the fiscal model that was presented here tonight, that we have to start accumulating funds in order to rebuild it. It is on the horizon within the next 2 years to start doing something in that lot, but in the meantime, it's going to be at a lesser rate, and it indicates that in the report as well as part of the recommendation. Just to start off the pay parking aspect, that we need the funds in order to rebuild. So it's going to be a lesser rate.
Okay. So we've got a motion here asking staff to have another look, and you've heard the input from the council. So unless there's any other new comments, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. So you have permission to make more money. Oh, yeah. And there were other, yes. Okay, and we've got, this is 2013-02. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, I assume, I mean, what you just dealt with was basically rate stabilization, so really recommendation one, I'll defer to Carl, but, you know, I would assume that recommendations 2, 3, and 4 can still be dealt with, or maybe not.
I would think 1 can be dealt with as well, because you need a starting point. You're not going to raise the rates by $1 an hour the first year. So this becomes what we're going to implement in 2013. We will bring back, as staff will bring back a report that says, what are we going to do in the future? Instead of 1 10-cent raise in 2 years, it may be multiple raises, and we'll bring that back. So we need this starting point to get us moving now to start accumulating funds in order to rebuild.
So you're asking for the 1, 2, 3, and 4 as you've got in the report. Okay. Correct. So we've got recommendations 1, 2, 3, and 4 at TS 2013-02. Councillor Iannone? Okay. Move the recommendation. TS 2013-02, the citywide parking review. Okay, do we have some feedback from council on the report?
Well, it's contrary to the motion that we just made. You want to look at it, this should be trimmed up a little bit.
Oh, for this year you're saying? Okay.
Come back.
What's that? Okay, and what about items 2, 3, and 4? Are they independent of 1?
They are independent. I guess just for clarification, we're saying 25 cents across the board this year. Okay.
We're saying more.
Okay. Then,
but items 2, 3, and 4 though.
Yeah. No, no problem.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, perhaps the easiest thing we do is just defer the whole report. We'll get back quickly. I don't think we'll have a problem coming up with higher prices for you very quickly. So I think we could get back probably.
You know what's happening with the budget? We all don't see what's happening.
Yeah. So we'll get back to you quickly. So I think if you just defer the whole report, that would be the easiest thing.
Okay, Councillor Iannone and seconded by Councillor Mays that we defer the report to our next meeting. Yeah, okay, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
We don't want to hear the whole report again.
Just the highlights, okay. Okay, and then we've got TS 2013-05, the downtown BIA. Now there's a request for deferral. Move deferral by Councillor Iannone, seconded by Councillor Morocco. All those in favor? Okay, it is deferred. And then next, back. What am I missing?
Well, now we make a presentation about parking.
Okay, you've got another presentation, Mr. Dren?
I do.
Okay, that's good.
This will be quick.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a continuation of the Transportation Services Department budget. The previous presentation included transit services and transportation engineering. This is to deal with parking services. You can find on page 165 to 207 the actual budget for the division. The division is made up of 7 full-time complements, and I think you have the wrong. Is that the right one? Oh, okay. Sorry, next slide. The division is made up of 7 full-time and 22 part-time. Majority part-time are parking control officers, and there's 1 clerical staff that's part-time. The major activities of the division are maintenance of the parking facilities, the First Appearance Office and maintaining that and upholding the Provincial Offences Act, responsible for parking control on the street, the electronic monitoring of parking machines. We liaise with the BIAs to facilitate parking programs, and Paul's been active with, or Mr. Brown has been active with the downtown. And also, he's also responsible for street hardware program, which is bus benches and recycling bins. The reviews being undertaken, of course, the one we just heard, which is the citywide parking review. We're also, we've been asked, and we are going to do a parking facility rationalization as well, to look at which lots we should continue to maintain and which ones we should get rid of. We're also going to look at the parking control, and we're going to look at how, when, and what we enforce. With the view to customer service, ambassadorship, and corporate values. I think it's important our officers out there represent us, and that they do it in a proper way. We're going to undertake a review of our field operations section out at the service center to look at procedures and policy. Key issues will be for us to, and funding challenges will be the implementation of the rate stabilization plan that we're going to come back to you with at next meeting, and keeping up with technological changes. There's things happening like the Canadian Mint introduced a couple new coins that presents challenges to us, and that's part of the budget as well, and that'll be taken care of in this year's budget. As well, the credit card industry puts together new security protocols. At machines, there's credit card modules. They converse and get approvals over the airwaves, and there's a stringent procedure that we have to follow in doing that, and there's been some changes to that that's happened lately. So that's not only a technological challenge, but also a monetary challenge. Within the division, there's 18 parking lots that we're responsible for. They're under review as far as the value of each of those, so we're going to come back with that rate rationalization that'll identify the value. Pay and display machines, there's 102 valued at about $1.5 million. Parking meters, 212, approximately 64,000. We're updating our ticket writers, and that's 80,000. In addition to that, there's 4 vehicles or 5 vehicles as well. Now, under the parking services, this is just the expense part of it. The parking maintenance service is about 770,000. The parking lots require 591,000 in maintenance, and parking control is 88,000, with a total amount of 1.4 or almost 1.5 million, and it represents about 1.4% of the total budget. And that's it. Any questions?
Any questions or comments of council? Mr. Dren? All right, we don't. I guess everyone was good with that report. And you know, one thing I do have to mention too, and I know some of us have heard of the new machines and the new money. new coins and new bills. I know at, even at Nexus, you know, the machines do not take the new bills, like new Canadian bills. So you have to find a way to, you know, utilize it some other way. Yeah, that's where I saw you. So anyway, it's important to note that the machines, well, I had a situation happen out front of City Hall where a person couldn't put money in the meter, wouldn't take their money. So, you know, they're little, so I understand you got some challenges and we're getting through them, and that's great. Excellent. And our staff are always happy to oblige. Moving on to our favorite part of the meeting, and it's brief tonight. I'm not there yet. Mayor's remarks. Now, just starting off, first obituary. David Brideau, who works for the city in the service center, lost his mother. She had just turned 90, and she had passed away. So, and as well, Jack Maraca, who works in environmental services, recently lost his grandfather, and our condolences go to both of them and their families. What's happened? Obviously, we went through the holidays, and we're hoping that everyone had a real wonderful holiday season, Christmas season with their families. And New Year's Eve, we do want to touch on. Niagara Falls, once again, was the biggest New Year's Eve event in Canada. We had the biggest live crowds, and we had the highest ratings, coast to coast, nationally televised, and that puts us up against Toronto and City TV. And I did watch all of them, and I have to tell you, ours was so well done, and our partners, specifically ET Canada, Global Television, working closely with Serge Felicetti, the Niagara Parks Commission, and all our partners in the BIAs and our sponsorships. It's to the point now where major sponsors are stepping up, like Toyota, because they want to be part of such a huge show. And they brought in some new production elements, such as a wire that they ran the camera right from the falls through the crowd to the stage. These new inflated balls filled with LED lights that they dropped into the crowd. The level of talent, we're not just having some kind of B-level, we're having like multiple top-level talent. The crowd was just absolutely on fire, and the result on TV, it was so obvious. It came across the screen. So congratulations to everyone involved. Niagara Falls is now, I think it's pretty official, we're the New Year's Eve capital of Canada. So well done to everybody. We had a vigil out front of City Hall for the Newtown, Connecticut people and the victims and their families, organized by Jody Gravel, a resident who took the initiative to put this together. You know, over the holidays, it was difficult. Councillor Gates joined me as we lit some candles and released some white balloons, one for each of the victims. It was a nice, solemn event. We had about 80 people show up for it. It was cold, but a small price to pay for those that have suffered. Some special announcements. On a more bright note, if anyone's been down Stanley Avenue, you will notice there's a new billboard. We've got a new billboard. Cue the billboard. We'll draw your attention to the screen. Post, who's been in town for a long, long time, as Kraft, as Nabisco, they want to have more of an association with the community, and as a result, they've put their money where their mouth is. They've taken out a billboard on Stanley Avenue that, well, as you can see, proudly made in Niagara Falls, shredded wheat, which is a real neat approach. And we're very happy that they're taking this approach. Matter of fact, we're looking at them doing a promotion, perhaps a Niagara Falls promotion on their cereal boxes across Canada. And you know, the interesting thing, a lot of you will remember, at one time there was a picture of the falls on all the cereal boxes, until someone had a brainiac idea to start charging them for using our logo. So how did that work out for us? Anyway, we're really happy that one of our local industries, you know, with good paying jobs that keep families afloat, they're having some success, and here's a way that they're reaching back to the community. They're very proud to be a part of Niagara Falls. It's been a long time tradition, so we appreciate them doing that. There's a reminder to the people of Niagara Falls, we had some snow over the holidays, Boxing Day. There's an encumbrance bylaw. It's against the rules to shovel or plow snow onto city streets or onto city sidewalks. And a special message to the private contractors that plow lots and then they jam the snow banks up against the edge of the lot, and sometimes what they're doing is they're pushing that snow onto the sidewalks. And we know that because we've had some seniors that ride scooters along these main roads call, and they're very concerned because they can't get down the sidewalk. So we just want to remind everyone, including the private contractors, there is an encumbrance bylaw in the city of Niagara Falls. Two last announcements. Number one, we still need, speaking of snow buddies, the Snow Buddy program, we reached out, sent letters to all of the churches, scouting groups, all the different groups. We're hoping to get more participation and more people enrolling in the program, especially the kids that need their 40 hours before they can graduate from high school. We're hoping we're going to get more participation there. But all they have to do is go to the City of Niagara Falls website. They'll see the Snow Buddy icon, click on it. It's very simple and painless. And lastly, I do want to mention that the 24th Annual Sports Wall of Fame will be taking place at the Gale Center on Sunday, January the 27th. Everyone should receive an email if they haven't already, and hopefully you can put that into your calendars to join us that day. That concludes your favorite part of the meeting. Right, Councilor Iannone? All right. Moving on. Just before we do, Mr. Clerk, are there any additional items for Council's consideration?
Actually, a couple of things related to the consent agenda. In your additions, there's a deferral request for Mr. Jody Burdette, who's the applicant on the one revitalization report. So he's asking for deferral. It applies to his property, so I would suggest that if he wants a deferral, you defer it. And then, if you want to...
All right, so deferral moved by Councilor Thompson, second by Councilor Iannone. We're talking PBD 2013-01. Pardon me? Till the spring, that's right, deferred to the spring. Any discussion? This is the gentleman on Bridge Street who's got that structure. He's got the wooden scaffolding around it that he's building. So, well, there was a letter in the package requesting deferral because apparently he was just notified, and apparently he's going to be away until the spring. So that's how it came to be.
2014, a year and a half.
Yeah. Well, it's at the will of council. We have a motion before you. Were there any questions on that report before we? Well, no. We've got a motion for deferral. There is no debate, so it's not debatable. So we will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Number one, notably opposed. Yep. Thank you.
Secondly, there's the additional, your report PBB 2013-08 related to the rooftop solar projects. There's an addendum to that report in your addition package. The FIT program's taking applications. The application deadline is on January 18th. As a result, your staff report has 5 potential locations, and there was a request for a 6th at the corner of Garner and Brown Road. The planning department has no difficulty with that, so if you approve that report, you're basically approving the 6 applications. So that's what Mr. Zappatelli is here for.
Okay, moved by Councilor Thompson. Pardon me, Councilor? No, this is an additional item. Okay, seconded by Councilor Iannone. Is there any discussion to the motion? Call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Excellent. I do like saying that.
Take the balance.
Now, Councilor Iannone, did you want to make the motion for the balance? All right. Moved by Councilor Iannone, the balance of consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Morocco. Yes, Councilor Carrier?
Worship, on TS 201306. Do we have bad soil on that property where we want to build our new bus station? Is that what I get out of that report?
Which one are you talking?
TS 2013-06.
Okay.
Just a question on the ground. Got bad ground there, Carl?
It's not really bad ground. It's liquefaction. It's a factor how quickly it liquefies, and it needs extra support.
So to the tune of how much more? 300,000 more or 679 more?
It's 679. The savings is about 300,000.
Savings?
If we did a different method to secure the building, it would be $300,000 more. So we.
But I look at that as if we were on a site where we didn't need remedial work, we'd save $700,000. So our site's costing us $700,000 more, right? Okay. Just wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly.
Was that the same problem we ran into at the other site? Same kind of thing?
It was similar, however, that was quite expensive.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Kerrio, are you, did you have any?
Yeah, I just want to know what we knew about how much.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to move the rest of the consent agenda by Councillor Ioannoni, second by Councillor Morocco. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Now, Councillor Peter Angelo's not here. Mr. Clerk, hold on, before we get there, we'll wait for him to come busting through the door. We've got two resolutions. Okay, does everyone have their resolutions handy? Have somebody to move the resolution? Okay, are you going to move both of them, Councillor Thompson? Okay, Councillor Thompson will move both resolutions, and seconded by Councillor Ioannoni. Any discussion to the... No discussion? All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous, thank you. Are there any additional bylaws, Mr. Clerk? There are none. This will be a first. Motion to introduce the bylaws? Okay, okay. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Ioannoni, for Councillor Peter Angelo. All those in favor? Okay.
I'm opposed.
Oh, with Councillor Wing opposed to the airport?
2013-03, yes.
Okay. To the airport bylaw?
Bylaws 2013-01 to 2013-04, read it first time.
Okay, and on behalf of Councillor Peter Angelo, we've got Councillor Maves moving it and seconded by Councillor Kerrio for a second and third reading. All those in favor? Okay, opposed? No, it's unanimous.
Bylaws 2013-